Huai was very happy. For several days in a row, his eyes were filled with joy when he attended court, and he felt that he was getting twice the result with half the effort when reviewing memorials. The emperor had just recovered a little, so he decided to go out with the queen to travel and enjoy the beautiful scenery of his kingdom during this sunny season. He brought several imperial doctors, many servants and palace maids, and imperial guards to protect him, and disguised himself as a merchant caravan to the south of the Yangtze River. All the affairs in Kyoto were completely placed on Murong Huai's shoulders. It was really a relief to let him experience the life of an emperor in advance and get familiar with the work content first. Sun Linger started having symptoms 10 days earlier than Suwon. In early September, she successfully gave birth to a daughter. When the second brother was holding his daughter, he seemed to be overwhelmed by joy. He said that he would pass on all his medical skills to her so that she would be able to protect herself with her medical skills. It had been agreed before that Suwon would be the one to name my second brother's daughter. Suwon chose from a bunch of candidate names and finally settled on Yuanji. Su Yuanji. The word yuan means innocence, liveliness, and cheerfulness, and the word ji refers to plants. Combined with the word yuan, it implies vitality and spring. It's easy to pronounce and sounds nice. In Sun Linger's words, it's obviously the name of a wealthy family, and it's very classy. The old miracle Dr. Sun finally had a great-grandson in his lifetime. The closer Suwon got to her due date, the more anxious Jiangyu became, because Sun Linga had already given birth, and the two were in the same month of pregnancy, but Suwon had not yet had a period. Jiangyu was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. In the late stages of pregnancy, I always had false contractions from time to time, my stomach felt tight and very uncomfortable. If Suwon frowned slightly, he would be nervous for a long time. With her as a pregnant woman, but he, the future father, is becoming more and more neurotic day by day. Now she was the only one who had not unloaded the goods, so the eyes of both families were on her. Su's mother simply moved directly to the side room in Suwon's yard, just to make it convenient for her to inform her if anything happened. As everyone was waiting, Suwon began to have a seizure late one night. She found that her stomach began to ache in her sleep, and she groaned twice in discomfort, and Jiangyu woke up immediately. It was a special period, and the candles in the room were burning all night. He lifted the quilt and found that she had already had her bleeding. In an instant, he became flustered and nervous, not knowing what to do first. I had rehearsed everything well beforehand, but now my mind is blank as to what to do when the attack occurs. Wanwan, does it hurt a lot? Suwon looked at him and shook his head. It's just the beginning. I can still bear it. Go and call mother and let her take care of the rest. Just stay with me. He found it funny to see her so flustered. Jiangyu then stood up and put on his clothes, then called Luyan and asked her to ask the old lady to get up. In an instant, Suwon's yard was as bright as day. Not long after, his brothers, his father, Duke Jiang, and his grandfather all gathered in the yard. The midwife and wet nurse were all in place, just waiting. As time goes by, the pain will become more and more intense. At this time, you should replenish your physical strength first. The kitchen cooked some nourishing bird's nest soup and brought it over. Suwon drank 2 bowls of it and ate half an apple. He felt full of energy. Jiangyu stayed by her side the whole time, talking to her to divert her attention. Suwon had also read some knowledge in modern times. Anyway, when it hurts, if you can still bear it, try not to waste your energy on shouting in pain. Keep your strength and use more when the baby comes. If it hurts, just walk around the room more and take deep breaths to divert the pain. The first baby will be slower. So Jiangyu helped her walk around the room. Although Suwon didn't cry out in pain, the blue veins on her forehead from trying so hard to endure it showed that she was in agony. Jiangyu wished he could feel the pain for her, but this idea was ultimately unrealistic. He wiped her sweat with a handkerchief. If it hurts, just scream. I'm here. Suwon smiled at him, but then the pain became more intense, so much so that her smile began to crack. After she recovered from her shock, she continued to explain. I have to save my strength, otherwise I won't have the strength to give birth to this baby soon. I was exhausted in the first 3 months.
I want to see what kind of god he is.
At this time, Suwon still had the mind to make a joke. But soon, she could no longer laugh. Once her amniotic fluid broke, she felt severe pain. It is said that the most painful time for a woman to give birth is as if 20 ribs are breaking at the same time. Suwon was lying on the bed and finally couldn't help but screaming in pain, tears and sweat mixed together. Seeing that Jongyu was guarding inside and refused to leave, and that there couldn't be too many people in the delivery room to avoid chaos, Sue's mother simply came out. The midwife took a look and felt that it was time to start pushing, so she put a handkerchief in Suwon's mouth and told her to push harder. Come on, princess. Let's take a deep breath and use our strength to push it downwards. Don't use brute force, or it will tear apart. The midwife looked very experienced, spoke very gently, and slowly guided Suwon not to make any wrong moves. Suwon started to exert force according to her instructions, but it really hurt. She cried while exerting force. Jongyu supported her arm and saw that she clenched her fist tightly. He was afraid that she would hurt herself with her nails, so he simply let her hold his arm. The man who is usually iron-blooded couldn't help but have red eyes and tears in his eyes at this moment. Suwon felt exhausted halfway through giving birth, so some ginseng soup was brought in for her to drink to boost her strength. Sumu is on call at any time. This bowl of soup was specially prepared by him. It not only contains ginseng slices, but also other medicinal ingredients that can help Suwon recover his physical strength and spirit quickly. The midwife said that she had already seen the baby's head and asked her to hurry up and deliver the baby, otherwise it would be bad for the baby to be held back for too long.
Suwon adjusted herself.
She felt numb from the pain and crying. Jongyu also shed tears silently. Fortunately, she paid attention to her diet during pregnancy, eating small meals frequently, so the baby didn't grow too big. She was just afraid that she would suffer during birth. Finally, at noon the next day, when the sun was at its highest, the child was born. When the midwife saw that it was a boy, she immediately congratulated Jongyu. Congratulations, prince, congratulations, princess, it's a little prince. Jongyu had no time to care about this kid and kept asking about Suwon's situation. The next step was to take out the placenta, and Suwon suffered a lot in this step. The baby's umbilical cord was cut, the baby burst into tears immediately, and the cry was deafening. Suwon asked someone to bring the baby over to let her see it first. At first glance, her son's skin was red and wrinkled, which was not a good look at all. She frowned, and the midwife immediately knew what she was thinking and explained, "Your water broke early, and the little prince was holding it in. So his face looks red, but his eyes and mouth are exactly the same as yours, and he has a pair of dimples, which he inherited from you, princess. He will become more and more lovable as he grows up." After the midwife said this, Suwon felt much more relieved. After taking a closer look, she discovered that the little guy indeed had a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes like Jongyu. Jongyu also took a look at his son. After the baby was born, he saw that both mother and child were safe, and his panic disappeared. The people outside the door heard the crying of the child and the news that Suwon was safe. They all breathed a sigh of relief. As long as mother and child are safe, they will feel relieved. The midwife brought the baby out and showed it to everyone. Sue's mother could tell at a glance that she wondered how handsome her little grandson would be when he grew up. His parents' genes are very good, and he will inherit their advantages. If he is not good-looking, who will be good-looking? I had just given birth, so it was not convenient for my brothers to come in to visit, so my sisters-in-law came in to see me. Suwon was so tired that she fell asleep holding Jongyu's hand. The child cried a few times when the umbilical cord was cut, and he never cried again after that. The baby also fell asleep after the wet nurse finished feeding him. He is such a good baby that makes people worry-free. After Suwon fell asleep, Jongyu looked at the little ball in the cradle next to him with tenderness in his eyes. The child's name was chosen by his great-grandfather. In order to see him, he came to Kyoto specially to fulfill the old man's wish. The grandfather had been thinking about the child's name for a long time, and he had chosen a backup name for both a boy and a girl. If it's a boy, he'll be named Jiang Qingyi, and if it's a girl, she'll be named Jiang Wanning. There is no doubt that Suwon gave birth to a boy, and his name was Jiang Qingyi. What a good name! Suwon felt that his grandfather was worthy of being a grandfather, and the name he gave was indeed good. That's right, this stroke is a bit too much. Not to mention that the child may complain bitterly when learning to write in the future. It will take her a long time to write even if you ask her to. Sue's mother said that the confinement period would last for 40 days, which meant that she was not allowed to go out during these 40 days. This was simply a death sentence for Suwon. She was sweating all over after giving birth, but she was not allowed to take a shower or wash her hair. She felt uncomfortable all over. The most important thing is that her milk is swollen. Very swollen, the kind that hurts. Her pregnancy, she could clearly feel the changes in her body, and a milky scent lingered around her. However, she had already hired a wet nurse, and the child could not eat that much. Mainly, wealthy families hired wet nurses and would not take care of their children themselves. Moreover, the wet nurses are experienced and definitely know more than her, a new mother. But it was really uncomfortable. After drinking a bowl of fish soup in the morning, I felt even worse. The nurse gave her an idea. She whispered in her ear how to relieve the pain. After listening to her, Suwon couldn't help but blush. Jongyu was learning how to hold a baby, and the nanny was teaching him how to hold such a small child, so that he wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Jong Yushua was so serious that he didn't notice the way Suwon was looking at him. Finally, little Qingyi fell asleep again. Jongyu turned around and looked at Suwon. Her beautiful eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and she seemed to be uncomfortable. "What's wrong, Wanwan? Are you feeling unwell?" he asked her with concern. Suwon suddenly found it difficult to speak, because the nanny had just told her that she needed Jongyu to help her. She was really feeling uncomfortable because of the swelling. If it wasn't treated in time, she might get inflammation, which would be difficult to deal with. So, she pulled on his sleeve and shook it, bringing him closer to her. Although she was embarrassed, her eyes began to look confused after she said that. After Jongyu heard this, his Adam's apple rolled subconsciously, and even his breathing became rapid. The temperature in the room continued to rise. Suwon also knew that this was not a solution, so he asked someone to ask his second sister-in-law Sunlinger if there was any way to alleviate the situation. "My second sister-in-law had just given birth not long ago, so she must have the same troubles as her. Moreover, her medical skills are also very good, so I can ask her many questions that are not easy to ask my second brother." Sunlinger seemed to have guessed that she would ask, so she asked someone to prepare a prescription and send it over. "Let her take the medicine according to the prescription. After a few days, the symptoms will be relieved." This really helped a lot. Suwon followed the prescription and indeed got relief. The moment the blockage was cleared, he felt so comfortable. Little Qingyi also changes day by day. After just a few days, the redness on the little baby's body has faded, and his skin has started to become whiter and more delicate. Especially when he was sleeping, he would always smile from time to time and then show his two dimples, which always made Suwon, his old mother, blush. Suwon always liked to hug her and kiss her little face constantly. During the confinement period, Jongyu's vacation ended, and he returned to the Ministry of Justice. Suwon was in confinement after a few days, but she finally couldn't stand it anymore and asked someone to get her a hot bath. As long as the room was warm enough and she dried her hair immediately after washing, it would be fine. It wasn't the coldest time of the year anyway, so what was there to be afraid of? Nowadays, people emphasize scientific confinement and focus on their own comfort. As for the ancient times, it is better not to continue some bad habits. Time passed slowly, and it was October, and Su-yi and Luo Shiju were about to get married. Because I was still in confinement after giving birth, I could only listen to the loud noise of gongs and drums outside, but I couldn't join in the fun. There were sounds of firecrackers outside, which meant the bride had been brought back. Today, everyone was busy with the wedding of my fifth brother and his wife. Suwon stayed in the room alone, playing with little Qingyi and looking at the sky outside. It was one of the few sunny days in October, and he really wanted to go out and bask in the sun. Kyoto gets cold early, and the weather starts to change in late October. Meanwhile, at the Su mansion, Su Yi and Luo Shiju had just finished their wedding ceremony. Because Mr. Qi and has many friends, most of them are literati and elegant guests, they all came to the Su mansion to attend the wedding banquet today. Su Yi's reputation in Kyoto has risen rapidly in the past 2 years, and almost everyone in the literary world can say that they know him. Some people finally took this opportunity to meet this young and talented painter, so they all gathered around him. Some who were learning to paint kept looking for him to discuss things. The groom certainly had to drink, and Su Yi's alcohol tolerance was average, so he soon felt dizzy. Seeing this, Soo-yeon asked someone to help him go downstairs to rest, and then asked someone to make him 2 bowls of sobering soup to drink. The wedding night was, and he couldn't let his brother get into trouble because of drunkenness. This is also a rare tacit understanding between the 2 brothers. The Su mansion was bustling from morning to night. Jiangyu returned to the Duke's mansion only after all the guests had left. Because he blocked a lot of alcohol for Su-yi, he drank a little too much. When he came back, he hugged Su-won and refused to let go. Su-won asked him to take a shower, but he dragged his feet like a child. Su-won felt helpless, but in fact she had always hoped that such peaceful days could continue forever. But everyone knows that this peace will not last long. In Kyoto, it just depends on when the opportunity comes. Su-yi had just returned to the room. The yard was decorated very festively, which formed a sharp contrast with the usual elegant and simple style. He didn't like bright colors, but at this moment, he thought that red was the most beautiful color in the world. Luo Shiju has a light, colored appearance, but now she looks even more charming with red makeup on. The crimson cinnabar at the end of her eyes and her watery eyes filled with mist make her eyes look like they have several layers of charm. Compared to Su-mu, Su-yi is actually a truly abstinent, handsome guy. Luo Shiju looked at him with her watery eyes and blushing face. Only he knew that his darling wife was a little crybaby. Their daily interactions, he always liked to tease her, and he would not stop until she was so angry that she was going crazy. Tonight, he also wanted to make her cry. Was in Xiangzhou. Whenever he visited Mr. Qi, Luo Shiju liked to secretly watch him. At that time, she was still very young, and the little girl always liked to look at him with a pair of innocent eyes. From then on, he found it very interesting. He always teased her and made her cry several times. She went to her father to complain, but Master Qian said that she was unruly. Later, she came to Kyoto and took the initiative to follow him. Only then did he understand her feelings and follow his heart. He held her hand, pulled her into his arms, held her quietly, and kissed her forehead from time to time. "Brother E, I am really happy today. I finally marry you." The little girl's voice was soft and sticky, like a feather gently tickling his heart. In the room burned all night, and the candlelight illuminated 2 entangled figures behind the bright red mandarin duck curtains. It was a charming night. After Su-yi's wedding, Su-chen immediately went to Prince Yang's mansion with the betrothal gifts to propose marriage. He gave to the princess certainly couldn't be too shabby, but little did he know that the dowry prepared by the palace for the princess was extremely rich. They are all old fathers who dote on their daughters and regard their daughters as more important than anything else. The royal palace has accumulated wealth for most of their lives, and that is not just talk. But Jiaqing is a princess. Logically, they should set up their own residence after getting married. However, Jiaqing said that she just loves the hustle and bustle and is happy to live with the whole Su family and is not willing to set up her own residence. If the Su family wasn't full of kind people from top to bottom, the prince and princess would probably not agree. Because of this, they knew that their daughter would not be wronged after marrying him, so they agreed to let her not set up a residence outside. On the day when Su-chun went to propose marriage, Su's mother found Mimi and said to her, "Mimi, you are the lifesaver of our Aiken. We have wronged you for so long. Aiken has asked for mercy from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince to release you from servantry. From now on, you will be a good citizen. Here are 500 taels of silver notes and a document of identity certificate from Jean. From now on, you will be a real citizen of Jean. With this document, no one dares to bully you." Take these silver notes and go out of the house. Find a place you like, do some small business, marry a good man, and live a good life." Mimi looked at the banknotes and identity documents in the box and stared at Sue's mother in a daze. "Madam, I don't feel wronged. You gave me shelter. I am very happy here." When she heard that Soo-chun had begged for mercy for her and freed her from servantry, she was undoubtedly very moved. But when she thought about it, she realized that he really only regarded her as his savior and was repaying her to the best of his ability. Now, he is about to marry the princess. They are a perfect match, with both of them having good looks and talent, and she is not worthy of him in any way. Originally, she had never thought about leaving the Soo mansion. She just wanted to live here quietly for the rest of her life and pray for him after his death, praying that he would be happy in his life and have many children and grandchildren. But I didn't expect that he still wanted to leave by himself. In fact, it was Jong-yu who reminded Soo-chun, and it was Soo-won who asked Jong-yu to say it. Soo-won knew that Mimi liked Soo-chun, but now Jia was about to marry him, and Mimi had always been feeling uneasy. After all, it was really hard to explain the relationship between her and Soo-chun. For Mimi to continue staying in the Soo mansion. When a person likes another person, you will not be able to control yourself to appear in front of him. Over time, it will become a burden to all three of them. Soo-chun cannot say anything to her because she is a savior. Jia cannot say anything either. It would be very uncomfortable for her to watch her yearning for her man every day. Girls are selfish in this regard. Even though they don't say it, they still care about it in their hearts. As Jia's good sister, Soo-won couldn't bring herself to speak up about this matter, so she had to step in. Send Mimi out of the house, get rid of her servantry, and let her find a meaningful life on her own, instead of spending her whole life in mediocrity with an impossible person. In this way, she gained freedom and the right to pursue other happiness, and it was also considered that she had repaid Soo-chun for saving her life. "Miss Mimi, you are still young, listen to my advice. There is a wider and better world out there. When you have some peace and happiness in the future, you will eventually understand what you want." Sue's mother advised her patiently. She was always gentle and polite, and the servants in the mansion respected her as an old lady. Mimi finally accepted these arrangements. Sue's mother asked someone to prepare a few decent clothes and some daily jewelry for her, and personally sent her out of the house. From now on, the sky is high and the sea is vast. You can fly freely. Arriving at the gate of the Soo mansion, Mimi looked up at the sky outside. It was no longer like the kitchen of the Soo mansion, where she could only see the sky in all directions when she looked up. She actually wanted to thank Soo-chun in person, but he must be very happy today and would not think of her. So Mimi knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Sue's mother. "Thank you very much for the Soo family's kindness in giving me a new life. I will pray for you every day. Thank you, General Soo." In life, and Mimi's regret is that she cannot express her love to Soo-chun. In fact, she is also a good girl and a very smart girl, otherwise she would not be alive today. She was freed from servantry. The servant mark on her body could not be removed. Prisoners of war like them had servant marks on their foreheads, so that everyone could tell at a glance that they were prisoners of war and even lower than ordinary servants. Thanks to Soo-chun's help, he felt that girls all love beauty.
He thought of his sister at the time.
If she had such a shameful scar on her face, it would probably cause considerable harm to her for the rest of her life, right? So he took the trouble to smooth things over, and the servant seal was eventually stamped on her collarbone. In fact, Soo-chun just wanted to help her more because he saved her life. However, this care led Mimi to misunderstand, and she mistakenly believed that Soo-chun had feelings for her. On the day Soo-won was released from confinement, she breathed in the outside air and felt relaxed all over. She wanted to rush out of the house and go shopping immediately.
Of course, she did just that.
She left Jong-yu and the children at home and asked her sisters-in-law to come with her to head to Kyoto's most famous Daughter Street. The so-called Daughter Street, as the name suggests, is a street dedicated to girls' business. Her Bingjatang is also located on this street. Today, they have left their children and husbands at home, and their wallets are in great trouble. Go shopping in the morning, go boating on the lake at noon, and eat river food on the boat. In the afternoon, go to Nanyuan to watch a magic show and drink tea. In the evening, go to Chunglu and have a delicious meal before going back. Way back, Su Wan and her sisters-in-law had a great harvest and bought many beautiful clothes, jewelry, rouge, and powder. Jiang Yu looked after the child at home for a day, or rather, they looked after the child for a day. It's all Su Yun's fault for causing trouble. He insisted that the women went shopping together, so the men should stay together to look after the children. As a result, all the kids in the family were gathered together and put together. Except for the eldest and third brothers who were busy with official duties, the rest of them, these resentful ones, suffered a lot. The two children in Su Yun's family loved to cry. When they were put together, his daughter Xiao Zi took the lead in crying. It was like a chain reaction. One after another, they started crying. The eldest child, Xiao Huayu, also started crying. Even Jiang Qingyi, who usually didn't like to cry the most, started crying too. Men were in a panic, holding the babies and coaxing them, and helping each other. As a result, the situation became more chaotic, and in the end it was only the wet nurses who stepped in to calm the situation down. Su Yi has not yet become a father, but he has experienced the joy of being a father in advance. He was thinking his children in the future probably won't be as noisy as his fourth brother's children, right? Su Zi is a tiger girl. She has had a bad temper and cried loudly since she was a child. She will definitely be a hot pepper in the world when she grows up. When Su Wan heard Jiang Yu talk about this, she laughed so hard that her stomach hurt. No, the visual was too strong, and she really couldn't help it. Seeing her laughing like that, Jiang Yu was also infected. Fourth brother is too unreliable. Let's wait until the children are older before letting them play together. Little Jiang Qingyi had no idea what his father and mother were talking about. Having just eaten, he lay in the cradle, kicking his little feet and staring quietly at the beautiful necklace tassel above his parents' bed curtain. After he came out of the confinement period, his little face was really pretty. If he hadn't been wearing boys' clothes, some people would have almost mistaken him for a girl. Every morning after drinking her fill of milk, she would be taken to her great-grandfather to play with him. When the elderly see that the children are healthy, they will be in a very good mood for the whole day. Such a beautiful and lovely baby. Last time, the crown princess came to visit her during her confinement. She even joked that if she gave birth to a daughter in the future, could she let Jiang Qingyi be her son-in-law? Of course, Su Wan was very happy. Just by looking at the beauty of the crown princess, one could imagine how beautiful a daughter would be if she gave birth to one in the future. This is a great deal. It would be a waste not to take advantage of it. After a few interactions, the two of them actually got engaged. The more the crown princess looked at Qingyi, the more she liked him. She said that she wanted to give birth to a daughter and have him become her son-in-law in the future. Later, little Jiang Qingyi fell asleep and was taken away by the nanny. Jiang Yu immediately hugged Su Wan and knocked her down. Pregnancy lasts 10 months and confinement lasts for 40 days. God knows how he managed to get through this year. He relied entirely on his own perseverance. Now that Su Wan has given birth and recovered, he can always. Because of her pregnancy, Su Wan had several indelible stretch marks on her belly, which greatly affected her beauty, but her figure recovered very well. Compared to her girlish look before pregnancy, she is now much fuller and her figure is even more graceful. Between husband and wife, so much time has passed, and Su Wan herself has missed it very much. But she didn't expect that a man who had been widowed for so long would be in such good spirits. She was indeed very happy at first, but this guy seemed difficult to satisfy. His physical strength was as good as ever, and after Su Wan had her fill as usual, she fell asleep without caring whether he lived or died. However, Su Wan had said before that after giving birth to Jiang Qingyi, she would not consider having a second child until at least 3 years later, so she was very careful to prevent it. Jiang Yu also felt sorry for her body. Giving birth was really hard. The two of them also wanted to have a daughter, but it would be better to have at least a few years in between. 25th day of the 12th lunar month, Princess Jiaqing and General Su got married, and many guests came to the Su mansion. Murong Huai came in person, bringing with him the crown princess who was pregnant, to attend the wedding in the cold winter. In the mansion one day in advance to leave a path. Murong Huai took time out of his busy schedule to attend the wedding, one because Su Chun was his good brother, and the other to give face to his uncle, Prince Xiang. The princess' wedding was undoubtedly grand. It is said that Jiaqing's wedding dress was custom-made by the palace's Bureau of Design. It was rimmed with gold thread and embellished with pearls, and was extremely gorgeous. This is the ceremony that a princess from the royal family should have when she gets married. Su Wan was also a princess, but she was born into an ordinary official family. Although her wedding dress was beautiful, it could not compare with Jia Cheng's wedding dress. Little baby Jiang Qingyi is very brave. He is not afraid even when there are so many people around. The funny thing is that no matter who teases him, he won't laugh, but as long as Su Wan teases him, he will laugh. He had 2 dimples when he smiled, and he was so adorable that all the ladies who came to the wedding banquet vied with each other to hug him. In comparison, little Yuanji from the second brother's family was more timid. There were too many people. It was the first time she had seen so many people since she was born, and it was very noisy. A little boy who looked 3 or 4 years old, whose family it was unknown, was holding a little fox mask in his hand. He originally wanted to make little Yuanji laugh because this pink ball was so cute. As a result, as soon as he put on the mask and walked over, the little girl saw him and finally couldn't help crying in her mother's arms, who was in the crowd, heard his baby daughter crying, and immediately turned around and held her in his arms to comfort her. Little Yuanji recognized her father and had a very good relationship with him. As soon as Su Mu hugged her, she stopped crying immediately, but she was still sobbing. The boy took off his mask and stood aside with some self-blame. I just saw that my sister wasn't smiling, so I wanted to make her smile. I didn't mean it. Seeing the little guy blaming himself, Sun Linger patted his shoulder to comfort him. It's okay.
I don't blame you. Whose family are you from?
After becoming a mother, Sun Linger developed infinite patience with all children. My father is the Minister of Works, the little boy answered in a baby voice. It turned out that he was the son of the Minister of Works. Sun Linger just asked casually. She never thought that this boy would become her son-in-law in the future. Su Mu didn't blame him. Instead, he gave him a handful of candied dates. These toffee dates come from the snack shop in Qinglu. My 4th sister-in-law had nothing to do, so she opened a small window in Qinglu to sell these snacks. Milk candy dates were developed by her and can be sold individually. They are very delicious but a little expensive. After eating it, the young master of the Ministry of Works was instantly amazed. This toffee date immediately became his favorite dessert. 4th sister-in-law didn't dare to bring Su Yun's 2 little kids, Xiao Zhiheng and Xiao Zi, out to play, for fear that they would start crying again and disturb the guests. Outside the Su mansion, a cloaked figure stood in the alley, quietly watching the hustle and bustle of the Su mansion. Hanging at the gate formed a sharp contrast with her plain white dress. A crystal teardrop flowed from the corner of the woman's eye. She said, "General Su, I hope you will be happy and fulfilled for the rest of your life." Mimi took the silver given by the Su family and did not leave Kyoto. She bought a quiet little courtyard for herself and found a maid to accompany her. She had been learning dancing since she was young and had already mastered it to perfection. She was teaching some little girls to dance in the Wanhua Tower in Kyoto. These little girls were sold to the building when they were young. Only those with good looks could learn to play musical instruments and dance. They were trained from a young age and could be marked out as skinny horses when they grew up. Apart from dancing, she had no other skills, and most of her money was spent on buying the yard. If she wanted to live a good life, she had to find something to do. Now that she was no longer a servant, people didn't dare to think anything of her, but when they saw her iconic foreign minister look, they would still point fingers at her behind her back. Decent job, but in order to have a stable income, he had no choice but to work as a teacher in Wanhua Tower. Her beauty was still too eye-catching, and the mother of Wanhua Tower had extended olive branches to her more than once, willing to make her the top performer. She hated places like this the most. Her current innocent identity was hard-earned, and she didn't want General Su to be disappointed in her, and should have been targeted for offending Wanhua Tower, but her mother did not make things difficult for her afterwards. The main reason was that when Suwon was on the street, he saw Mimi, who had just come out of Wanhua Tower, so he asked someone about her and learned that she was a dance instructor. He thought that Mimi was also working hard to make a living, but Wanhua Tower was a place full of mermaids and human beings, and she was a weak woman, so he should help her. Therefore, Suwon asked people to put pressure on Wanhualu. Knowing that Mimi was the person the princess wanted to protect, Wanhualu did not dare to be rude to her or make any plans against her. Suwon helped her for only one reason. Firstly, as a woman, she sympathized with her experiences and hardships. After Su Chun and Jia Qing's wedding, the Su family grew larger and larger. Now, 2 large round tables have to be placed in the dining room for dinner every day, otherwise there would be no room for everyone to sit. The Duke's mansion, with Su Wan, Jiang Yu, and Duke Jiang, there are only 3 people eating together, so they might as well come to the Su mansion for lunch and dinner. In order to make it convenient for both sides, the dining room was moved between the 2 houses so that it would be convenient for everyone. Nowadays, who in Kyoto does not envy the Su family? There are so many people in the family, but there are no conflicts. They are happy every day. As the saying goes, a harmonious family brings prosperity. No wonder everything goes well for them. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it's 2 years later. The emperor has returned from his travels, but the 2 years of hardship have made his health worse. He coughs every day and even coughs up blood from time to time, just like the former crown Prince Zhao Wei. Prince Chaohui was the posthumous title and honorific appellation given to Murong Min, which was conferred posthumously by His Majesty. Su Mu went to the palace to examine him and told Murong Huai truthfully that his time was running out, and even if he took the best medicine, he would only last for at most half a year. 2.5 years ago really damaged the emperor's foundation severely. The fact that he has been able to hold out for this long is already the best outcome. In the past 2 years, from spring to autumn, the children have learned to walk and are in the stage of learning to talk. Jiang Qingyi, a 2.5-year-old boy, learns things very quickly. He can remember almost any phrase after you say it twice in front of him, except for his incorrect pronunciation. He walked very steadily. When he was over 1 year old, he could walk for a distance on his own, with the company of an adult. When he was less than 2 years old, he could run freely. The second brother's daughter, Su Yuanji, was the most interesting when she was learning to speak. When Sun Lingo asked her to call her aunt, she followed and said aunt. When she asked her to call her brother, she said brother. When she asked her to speak louder, she also spoke louder. Everyone laughed at her and called her a silly sister, but she also added a lot of laughter to the adults. Fourth brother's twins, a boy and a girl. The younger sister Suzy is really a little haughty. After she learned to walk, she is very busy all day long and finds everything new and exciting. Brother Su Ziheng is also very lively, talkative, and cheerful, but his temper is milder than that of his sister. In the past 2 years, the fifth and third brothers also became fathers, but they both hoped to have a daughter, but in the end they were each rewarded with a son. Of my third and fifth sister-in-law were 1 month apart, and both have just finished their confinement. My third brother's son was named Su Yunzheng, and my fifth brother's son was named Su Luochuan. Suddenly, the only children in the house except Xiao Yuanji and Xiao Zi were boys. No doubt that the 2 little girls received the most love. In the words of the eldest brother, sons must be well educated and their tempers must not be spoiled, otherwise they will do stupid things when they grow up. Daughters are different. It's okay to pamper them a little, and it's better if they have a more aggressive temper, so that they won't be bullied. This is really double standards. My eldest sister-in-law is pregnant again, and my eldest brother is looking forward to her giving birth to a daughter. If it is still a son, he will not force it. It only means that he is not destined to have a daughter. But it doesn't matter. He will like both nieces and nephews equally in the future. Murong Huai's first child was indeed a boy, named Murong Jun. It seemed that there was no way for him to arrange a marriage with Su Wan for the time being. thousands of miles away, has not been idle during these years. Although the secret has been kept well hidden over there, Fengyue Villas still managed to get some information. Morongsheng has been exchanging letters with the king of Chu. A few years ago, it was discovered that he also had exchanges with the king of Qi. If nothing unexpected happens, the king of Qi has been pulled into his camp. He was planning a rebellion. He was unwilling to be just a vassal king. In the past few years, Guyu has really become the most powerful person in Prince Jin's mansion. After Zhao Zhen was demoted, Zhao Hui's status plummeted. She was forced to drink safflower, which made her unable to get pregnant for the rest of her life. Yu successfully gave birth to Morongsheng's eldest son and named him Morongchen. The character Wang, Morongsheng is really brave. After Zhao Hui was suppressed by Guyu, her daily life was nothing like that of a princess. Now that she is still alive, although she has the title of princess, it is better not to have it. And although Guyu does not have the title of princess, everyone in this fiefdom treats her as a princess. She gave birth to another son, and Morongsheng loved and indulged her very much. Zhao Hui lived in a dilapidated courtyard and had only one personal maid to serve her. Her food and allowance were deducted every day. She suffered from the cold in the winter and heat stroke in the summer. Now, after 3 years of being tortured, where is her former confidence and sharpness? She now had no love for Morongsheng, only hatred, and she hated Guyu even more, wishing she could cut her into pieces. As for Kyoto, news had already spread that the emperor was dying, and all the princes would have to return to the capital to guard the body. If they wanted to take action, this would be the best opportunity. In Kyoto, after 3 years of changes, Morongsheng, with the financial support of Guyu, has raised a lot of elite soldiers who are ready to help him usurp the throne at any time. He also has the strong support of the king of Chu. I don't know what the specific situation is on the king of Chi's side, but they have close contacts, and it is estimated that they are probably in the same group. Now, the condition of the emperor in Kyoto is critical, and there is a sense of pressure lingering in the court every day. The crown prince was worried about his father's health, and was a little serious when he attended court, not as relaxed and humorous as usual. Everyone could feel that something was wrong with his mood, so they were all very cautious, and didn't dare to say the wrong thing. Jiang Yu is now the Minister of Justice. He stands at the front every day when he attends court, watching these old men arguing with each other over various issues. Not only does he find it boring, but even Morong Huai, who is sitting at the top of the court, waits for them to finish arguing before speaking. He only speaks out to stop them when the noise becomes unbearable. Everyone can talk a lot, but they can't come up with a serious strategy. Later, it was Su Jing who suggested that now that the national treasury was full, in order to prevent traffic problems at the Shuana Dam, it was recommended to carry out maintenance every 3 years. Today, the banks of the Xian River are surrounded by lush vegetation. Even during the flood season, when the river water rushes out of the dam, it can be blocked by these vegetation. Today, the people of Xuanhe have lived a stable life, economic development has recovered, and life has begun to get better. Look, this is an official who gets things done. Morong Huai directly agreed to his proposal. He had already made up his mind that after he officially ascended the throne, Su Jing would be the future prime minister. As for Jiang Yu, he has no ambition to serve in the court anyway, so he can do whatever he wants when the time comes. Of course, it would be better for him to stay and help him. When Su Wan returned home from court, he was playing with little Qingyi in the garden. He was sitting on the grass with 2 kittens snuggling on both sides of him. Su Wan was sitting on a stone bench drinking tea. Luyan was standing beside her, and it was unknown what they were talking about, but both of them had smiles in their eyes. Luing was about to give birth, so she was asked to go back and rest. Jiang Yu changed into ordinary clothes. He still loved purple. After so many years, he was no longer the high-spirited prince. He looked more calm and capable. All of this was acquired through training in officialdom over the past 2 years. But Su Wan still has a very girlish look. She is only 22 years old. Because she lives a comfortable and happy life on weekdays, everyone still pampers her as always. When a woman has no worries, she will not age quickly. It is true that loving someone is like growing flowers. Little Qingyi was originally standing on the lawn, waving the small short sword made of rosewood by his grandfather for him. He noticed his father coming back and immediately ran towards him steadily, calling, "Dad." Jiangyu bent down and picked him up. "Did you listen to your mother at home today?" Little Qingyi nodded. He was very obedient every day. He didn't cry or make a fuss. He just played by himself quietly. On the contrary, he was the one playing with his mother. He is almost 3 years old, and Jiangyu decided to train him to do horse dance when he turns 3, to practice the basics and lower body so that he can study the martial arts of Fengyue Villa well in the future. Our son has always been very well behaved. Why did you come back so early today? Su-won poured him some hot tea. Today seems to have not changed much, except that after becoming a mother, she still has a somewhat gentle temperament. The emperor's health has been getting worse recently, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is very worried. Everyone is tacitly aware of this during court sessions, and they don't want any more accidents to happen at this critical juncture. If they do their jobs honestly, there will be less work to do, and naturally they will have more free time. Jiangyu explained. The emperor returned to the capital. In order to be able to look after him at any time, Su Mu was summoned to live in the palace, bringing his second sister-in-law and little Yuanji with him. Xiao Yuanji inherited her father's genes and also has a very sensitive nose. She was born to study medicine. What did my second brother say? Su-won had a feeling that Kyoto was about to be in chaos. It's probably 2 months at most. Fengyue Villa has found out that Jindi and Chudi haven't been very honest recently, so I have a plan. I've already written to Uncle He. You and your mother-in-law and the others take the children to Fengyue Villa to live for a few months. I'll pick you up before the end of the year. Is that okay? Jiangyu has this plan, which means that Morong Sheng is definitely not doing something small. Just let my parents go. I'll stay with you. No. Qingyi is still young and can't leave you for too long. Jiangyu disagreed with her staying. In fact, Su-won wanted to say that if he stayed, using his knowledge of the original work, he might be able to help them a little. However, she never told Jiangyu her secret. Ayu, listen to me for once. I have to stay. I won't cause you any trouble. I will protect myself. Su-won looked at him steadily, and there seemed to be a determination in his eyes. Jiangyu's heart clenched. He was silent for a moment, but finally nodded. Su-won then smiled at him, a very natural smile, without any pretense of being relaxed. Then I'll go tell my parents and ask them to arrange as many people as possible to ensure their safety on the road. Jiangyu nodded, put little Qingyi on the ground, and handed him over to the care of the wet nurse. I'll go with you. The couple went to the Su mansion next door and gathered everyone back. Except for the second brother and his friends who were still in the palace, basically everyone was here. The third brother and the eldest brother cannot leave, but someone has to take charge on the way to Fengyue Villa. Undoubtedly, the fourth brother and the fifth brother are the best candidates. Now Chenglu no longer needs Su Yun to be involved in everything. After he leaves, Chenglu can continue to operate. Su's father and mother had no idea what their daughter and son-in-law meant by their sudden decision, and they actually asked them to take the children to live in Fengyue Villa for a while. However, the old couple didn't ask much about what was happening outside, but the younger generations in the family all knew that the emperor's health was getting worse and worse, and it might not be long before there would be another national mourning. Su-yi was very careful, and he could sense that something was amiss. The family is now mostly made up of women and children, and the children are still very young. If Kyoto suddenly changes and a war breaks out, there is no guarantee that there will be no problems. That's why Jiangyu suggested that he and his fourth brother take their family to Fengyue Villa to avoid the limelight for a while. It is said that Fengyue Villa is easy to defend and difficult to attack, and is full of experts. It is indeed the best place to take refuge. Without waiting for Su's father and mother to say anything, the eldest brother spoke directly. Just do as Ayu said. Pack up your things as soon as possible and travel as light as possible. Don't be too conspicuous. Go in several groups. I'll send someone to notify the second brother and ask his wife to bring Xiao Yuanji back first and go to Fengyue Villa with you. The eldest brother almost immediately understood Jiangyu's intention. Jiang Yu must have confirmed some news to make this decision, so what he had to do was to dispel the doubts of his family members and let them obey his arrangements. Since the head of the family has spoken, Su's father and mother naturally have no objection. However, Shen Qingli, who is still pregnant, was a little worried and looked at Su Jing anxiously. Su Jing reached out and held her hand, squeezing it gently in his palm, silently comforting her. It was finally decided that except for Su Jing, Su Mu, and Su Chen, everyone else in the family would go to Fengyue Villa. Su Wan also stayed and asked her mother and sisters-in-law to help her take good care of Qingyi. Because there were so many people, many children, and a lot of stuff, and they had to bring a lot of wet nurses, the team was quite large, so they decided to leave the city in several batches in a low-key manner. Fortunately, Su Chun is the chief commander of the city defense battalion. With his arrangement, it is very convenient to leave the city without attracting any attention. Jiang Yu reminded them again and again to bring as little as possible and travel light, and that Fengyue Villa would prepare anything they needed. Jiang Yunhe has also arranged accommodation. He will send someone to pick them up on the way to ensure the Su family's safe arrival. Of departure, Su Wan packed Qingyi's things and repeatedly told the wet nurses not to let him out of their sight on the road. The wet nurses also swore to protect the young master's safety to the death. Qingyi was very well behaved. He did not cry or make a fuss when he left. He let his mother hold him quietly for a while. Before getting on the carriage, he lay on his wet nurse's shoulder and kept looking at his father and mother, who were watching them leave from behind. Su Wan was very reluctant to let her son go. She had become more sensitive since she became a mother. Now her son was still so young and had to leave her for such a long time. She was afraid that in a few months the kid would not recognize her and would not be close to her. After the carriage left, her eyes became moist and her nose felt sore. Jiang Yu noticed her reluctance and put his arm around her shoulders to comfort her. "Be good, we sent him away to protect him, and we will be reunited soon." Su Wan nodded, but still couldn't help but sigh. The two huge mansions became completely deserted after they left, no longer as lively as before. From Kyoto to Zhongzhou, if the journey was smoother and not rushed. After all, the children in the team were still young and could not withstand the high-intensity travel. They had to stop and walk along the way. It was 20 days later when they arrived at Fengyue Villa. Kyoto, when the emperor was so sick that he could only lie in bed, the crown prince issued an order to summon all the princes back to the capital. They are all the emperor's sons, so it is natural for them to return to Beijing at this time. The weather has been bad in recent days. The sky is always covered with dark clouds, and it looks like a heavy rain is about to fall. The palace is shrouded in a very depressing atmosphere. There is a feeling that a storm is about to come in Kyoto. Half a month later, the princes arrived in Kyoto one after another. They were not allowed to bring weapons into Kyoto, and were stopped when passing through the city gate. Su Chen personally guarded the city gate to check and did not allow any weapons to enter. It was said that the Princess of Jin was in poor health, so she did not follow the Prince of Jin back to the capital. The one who came with him was his concubine Guyu. Guyu and Morong Sheng were sitting in the carriage. When it was her turn, Su Chen stood aside on horseback while the soldiers opened their boxes and checked them one by one. Guyu opened the curtain and looked at Su Chen. She smiled and said hello. "General Su, long time no see." Su Chen heard the voice and glanced over. He didn't get off the horse, but clasped his fists on the horse. "Welcome, King Jin." She was just a concubine, and now that he was a third-rank general, he naturally didn't need to salute her. And Guyu hasn't changed much in these few years. She no longer calls them brother as she used to, but respectfully calls him General Su, because she knew that the Su family would never be able to go back to the way they were before. But if it is done, she'll consider letting the Su family go, excluding Su Wan, just for the sake of their upbringing since childhood. Over the years, Guyu has been able to call the shots in Jin, and she has already placed herself in a very high position. The title of princess is no longer important to her, as long as she has a say. Only after all the weapons were confiscated did Su Chen let them enter Kyoto. All the princes arrived one after another, and the prince held a welcoming banquet to simply entertain these royal brothers. Jiang Yu and Su Wan attended the meeting and sat opposite Gu Yu. Gu Yu looked at her with a smile, raised his glass to herself with a smile on his face. After not seeing her for a few years, she looked more confident and calmer. Su Wan also raised his glass in return as a courtesy. As expected, the crown prince and several princes spoke in a sarcastic and ambiguous manner at the banquet. Only Prince Yong and Prince Qi were relatively quiet. They did not get involved and tried to minimize their presence as much as possible. However, Murong Huai was in the university debate team and was also well-versed in Yinyang literature. In addition, he had been in charge of government affairs for the past few years and had learned a lot from listening to the verbal battles between these old ministers every day. 1 against 2, and they are not at a disadvantage at all. It's quite interesting to see their yin and yang. At halftime, Su Wan felt tired of sitting, so she got up and went out to get some fresh air. She missed her son a little, and she felt relieved when she heard that they had arrived safely at Fengyue Villa. Gu Yu saw her coming out and followed her out. How has the princess been these past few years? Su Wan heard the voice and knew it was her without even looking. Everything is going well. The family is harmonious, and everything is going well. What about concubine Gu? She seems to be doing well too. Why didn't Princess Jean come to the capital with her this time? She deliberately mentioned Zhao Hui and emphasized her tone of concubine Gu. Gu Yu cares a lot about the status, doesn't she? But she still underestimated Gu Yu. She reflected on herself over the years and realized that if she wanted to achieve great things, she couldn't show her emotions on her face. Since the princess arrived at her fiefdom, she has not been able to adapt to the climate there and has not been in good health. In addition, she has been missing her family and has not been in good health. It is not suitable for her to travel long distances, so the prince did not take her with him. She had grown a lot and now looked like a heroine. But unfortunately, when she came, she was no longer the heroine because all the characters in the book became flesh and blood beings, no longer stereotyped paper people, and everyone was their own protagonist. She also guessed that Zhao Hui would not have an easy life. Although Jean was remote, the environment was not bad, and acclimatization would not be a big problem. Why don't you see the young master of the Duke's mansion today? During Su Wan's silence, Gu spoke again. Su Wan's identity and the fact that she gave birth to a son for Jiang Yu were no secrets, and it was okay for her to know. But why does she care about her son? Our child is still young. He doesn't like crowds and likes to make noise. We were afraid that he would disturb the noble's interest, so we didn't bring him into the palace. However, I just saw the young master of the Jean Palace from a distance. He looks exactly like the Jean Prince. His name is Morong Chun, right? Su Wan did see from afar that the 3-year-old Morong Chun had a face very similar to his father. Is also the name in the original book. But in the book they are the prince and princess, so there is nothing wrong with giving their son a name with the character Wang in the middle. But naming it like this now is somewhat disrespectful to Morong Huai and seems like a provocation. She didn't say that Morong Chun was the prince of Jean, but in Jean, everyone called him the prince because he was Morong Sheng's only son. Su Wan called him the young master, and although Gu Yu had a smile on her face, he could feel that she was biting her cheek hard. Yes, Chun'er is very similar to the prince, and their personalities are similar. Can I go visit the young master of the Duke's mansion when I'm free? The 2 children are only a few months apart, so I'm sure they can play together. Gu Yu said so. He probably wanted to find out about the situation in the Duke's mansion in order to understand the situation of the Su family. When the rebellion starts, it is very important to take hostages. Once a war breaks out, those Kyoto officials will be in danger and their families may very likely become hostages of the rebels. Jiang Yu and the Su family are now the prince's right-hand men. Gu Yu wants to grasp the layout of the 2 governments so that once the rebels invade, she can capture them as hostages as soon as possible. But little did he know that Jiang Yu had already received the news and moved his family members away. Su Wan now follows Jiang Yu wherever he goes. Even if they break into the Duke's mansion and the Su mansion, they will only find 2 empty houses. Unfortunately, our Qingyi has caught a cold recently, and it's quite serious. Children are weak and easily infected, and I'm afraid that he will be infected by the young master. Let's wait for another day. When we have time, we can invite concubine Gu to visit our house. They are all people of status now, and they have to be polite in their words and deeds on the surface. They can't confront others blatantly like before. Guyu knew that Suwon was not stupid, and there would be problems if she agreed directly, so she was not in a hurry. Back in the banquet hall, everyone followed the procedure to complete the rest of the banquet and left when the time came. The next day, Jiang Yu found a little boy from somewhere. Like Xiao Qingyi, he had a pair of dimples. When the little boy arrived at the Duke's mansion, Jiang Yu found 2 wet nurses to look after him. He said that he would go out for a walk from time to time, take the child with him, and show his face in front of people. Suwon knew what he meant and couldn't help but sigh that her husband was really meticulous. The same thing happened at the Su mansion. Su Jing asked the people who went out to buy things to follow the lists that were made when the masters were still around. Children have weak stomachs and are very careful about their diet, but now with so many fewer people, the shopping has decreased and there are fewer vegetables, so it is easy to see that the staff have been transferred. They dared to guarantee that there must be someone secretly following the Duke's mansion and the Su mansion. Princes came to Beijing. Jiang Yu found a group of children and placed them in the Su mansion. Their parents were there, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough food to eat after buying vegetables every day. As long as they were not deaf, they should be able to hear the crying of children coming from the house. Every 2 days, Suwon would take her baby and her maids to the street to buy things and drink tea. She acted very well. For Qinglu, it is open for business as usual every day. When someone came to ask why Boss Su hadn't been seen recently, the waiter just said that Boss Su had a problem in Qinglu and Xiangzhou, and he rushed over to deal with it, and would not be back for a while. Guyu also sent herself several invitations one after another, saying that several princesses were planning to get together, and she also invited the ladies in Kyoto, who had children of similar age at home, to bring along and exchange parenting experiences. Guyu was very smart. She knew that there must be someone in Kyoto who had seen Jiang Qingyi, so she would know whether their baby was real or not. Suwon refused to accept the challenge. Just when she was thinking about how to refuse, news came from the palace that the emperor was critically ill. All the princes, princesses, and ministers were summoned to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Suwon also came, with Jiang Yu. The princes were all in the inner hall. The emperor vomited blood several times, couldn't even speak, and his whole body was twitching. His 50s, was tortured by illness and looked haggard, with white hair and a skinny body. The queen was not in much better condition either. She looked haggard, and her eyes looked swollen from crying secretly all the time. She was already satisfied with her life. She had been favored by the emperor for half his life and was also promised the position of queen. In the last few years, she was the one who stayed by his side, without any other woman. An emperor, after all, was the supreme ruler and was willing to give her exclusive favoritism. What else could she be dissatisfied with? Naturally, he treated her sincerely. After guarding in the Hall of Supreme Harmony until midnight, news came that the emperor had passed away. For a moment, the sound of bells rang out in the palace. The sound was very sad and hollow. The bell would only ring when an emperor fell, and the entire imperial city could hear it. Following the tragic voice of Servant Liu, the emperor has passed away. All the ministers, concubines, and marquises knelt down, knocked their heads on the ground, and began to sob. Some are sincere, while others are just pretending. Prince Yong cried the most sadly. He was as honest and kind as ever, with no ambition and a simple mind, but his words were sincere and heartfelt. His mother had always taught him to live a down-to-earth life, behave properly, and not get involved in any struggle. Only in this way could he have long-term peace. Therefore, no matter who succeeds to the throne at that time, he will be able to maintain his position as a vassal king because he poses no threat. This is the true wisdom of appearing foolish. King Yong chose to be obedient, and he had a very smooth life these years without any worries. However, now the time has come for him to take a stand. If he makes the wrong choice, he will be doomed. But if you make the right choice, you can become a rich and leisurely king like Uncle Xiangwang. According to the rules, when the previous emperor passed away, The crown prince would ascend the throne 7 days after the previous emperor's death and be honored as the new emperor. After 49 days, the official coronation ceremony was held. When the emperor passed away, all the civil and military officials in the court had to wear plain clothes and keep vigil for the late emperor and pray for his well-being. Crown Prince Murong, his wives, concubines, and brothers knelt in the inner hall for 7 days in a row, until 7 days later, when the emperor's body was taken to the imperial mausoleum. At this time, everything seems calm. They probably want to wait until the late emperor's body is buried in the imperial mausoleum before taking action. It's better this way, so that the emperor doesn't have to watch his sons kill each other after he's passed away, right? Everyone seems to be doing a good job on the surface, but how many of them really have feelings? As the days passed, Jiang Yu became more and more worried about Su Wan. He had already arranged a place for her to take shelter temporarily. She had insisted on staying in Kyoto in order to confuse them. Otherwise, if she disappeared, wouldn't it be easy to see that all the Su family members had evacuated? Jiang Yu and Murong have already determined that Murong Sheng will take action after the late emperor's body is placed in the mausoleum. That was the 8th day. After the 7th day, early the next morning, Murong led the team to send the emperor's body to the imperial mausoleum. When they returned, it was already dusk. Just as night fell, Jiang Yu was summoned into the palace by the new emperor. When he went out, only Anan was with him, and Su Wan was not with him. The person who was following in secret brought the news back almost immediately. The late emperor has been buried in the imperial mausoleum, and the princes will have to leave the capital soon. There will be a simple dinner tonight, and the crown prince will see the princes off. All officials in Kyoto must go, but they don't have to bring their families. Su Jing also went out and went directly to the palace. Kyoto today, the officials' residences are left with only their helpless family members. Su Wan hid in the carriage early in the morning. Every family would harness the carriage to go out and pull it from the backyard to the front yard. Su Wan sat in it quietly, wearing the clothes of a servant. In the carriage, Jiang Yu held her in his arms, pressed her against the carriage, and kissed her forcefully. He knew that there would be a fierce battle tonight, and he was not sure whether he could come back safely, so the person he was most worried about was Su Wan, his wife. Su Wan was almost suffocating, but she let him kiss her and responded to him passionately. When the carriage reached the destination, Jiang Yu reluctantly hugged her for a while. "Wait for me to come back." Su Wan nodded, feeling mixed emotions. The carriage stopped at the entrance of an alley. Feng had been waiting there for a long time. Jiang Yu handed Su Wan over to him for protection, and then went to the palace alone. Feng led her through twists and turns in the alley for a long time before finally bringing her to a small courtyard. Qionyang was waiting there with her 4-year-old son. When she saw Su Wan coming, she waved at her. Once the rebels enter the city, they will go straight to the mansions of various officials, take hostages, and force the emperor to abdicate. I won't spend the effort to search these small places just to find her. People cannot be killed indiscriminately, which is particularly important for an emperor to win the hearts of the people. The banquet had already begun in the palace. After inspecting the streets, Su Chan went into the palace to attend the banquet. There is a curfew in Kyoto. Since the death of the previous emperor, the curfew has been moved forward by 1 hour for a month. So early on, not long after nightfall, the streets of Kyoto were already deserted, and some shops were planning to close. The palace banquet was still being held, but everyone was still wearing white mourning clothes, and there was no smile on their faces, and they didn't say much to each other. There was no singing or dancing, just the silence of the place, with the only sound being the chopsticks accidentally hitting the plate. Strange atmosphere in the hall. The curfew time came. Su Chen asked Emperor Murong that he wanted to inspect the streets, and then he left. Murong waved his hand and held his forehead, looking like he was drunk. After Su Chen walked out of the hall, his expression suddenly became serious, and he quickly left the palace. The city defense camp. At this moment, the 2 southeast gates of Kyoto have been opened, and tens of thousands of rebels have poured into Kyoto. They have a clear purpose and are divided into several groups and head directly for the officials' residences. The gates of those mansions were kicked open, and the armored rebels rushed in with swords. If they were stopped by servants and guards, they would be killed. They had a list with the names and numbers of the families of various officials, and they had to control them all. The residential area was filled with women's screams of fear and children's cries. If some of the children of wealthy families dared to resist, they would be beaten up. They would not be killed, but they would be beaten until they behaved themselves. After Su Chun left the palace, there was chaos outside. He released a ball of fireworks. The soldiers of the city defense camp saw the opportunity and drew their swords to kill some of the rebels and the rebel leader in the city defense camp. This traitor was none other than his colleague, who had served as lieutenant general of the city defense battalion with him. At that time, one of them was in charge of the northwest gate, and the other was in charge of the southeast gate. This deputy lieutenant general has been in this position for 10 years, while Su Chen has only been in this position for more than a year, but because of his relationship with the prince, he was directly promoted to chief lieutenant general. Naturally, he was unwilling to accept the situation and always held a grudge. The Shun Marquisate had always been in contact with Morong Sheng, and it was the young Marquis of the Marquisate who contacted him and instigated him to open the city gates and let the rebels enter the capital. He has been in this position for 10 years and has many subordinates who are very loyal to him. He deliberately replaced the people at the southeast gate with his own people to let the rebels enter the city. However, little did they know that this was all done on purpose by Su Chen. None of the princes and rebels who started the rebellion today will be able to escape. Almost as soon as the fireworks were set off, the deputy lieutenant general looked on triumphantly at the tens of thousands of rebels entering the city, fantasizing about his future wealth and glory. The next second, a long sword was placed on his neck, and it slashed his neck without mercy. If he is a traitor, then Su Chen will also plan a traitor. The deputy lieutenant general turned around and looked at the loyal lackey who usually followed him. He covered the bloodstain on his neck with an incredible look on his face and fell unwillingly in a pool of blood. He was seen holding a blood-stained sword, and the soldiers of the city defense camp who had turned against him along with the deputy lieutenant general all raised their swords and slashed at him. Immediately, Su Chen's men drew their bows and surrounded them. Zhu Liang is dead. Those who don't want to die and want to redeem themselves from their crimes should all follow me and follow the general to kill the rebels. At a time like this, only a fool would continue to avenge a dead person. They could only kneel down and obey the orders. The rebels have arrived at the palace gate, numbering as many as 30,000. The Shishan camp is 100 miles away from Kyoto, and no news has been received. Even if they can come to support, it will have to be tomorrow morning. The palace guards and imperial guards totaled only 5,000 people, and the city defense camp had 8,000 people, but they had already controlled a small half of them. Another part is that when it comes to taking hostages and having more numbers, the rebels have the upper hand. Su Chen led 2,000 soldiers from the city defense camp to guard the Suzaka Gate, and another 2,000 at the Qinglong Gate, and 2,000 at the Baihu Gate. The remaining 2,000 are the people controlled by Zhu Liang and some people he dared to support, and they are now on their way. As for Xuanwu Gate, the commander of the Imperial Guards and his men were guarding it. The fighting has officially begun. Tonight is destined to be uneasy and sleepless. Guyu brought a team of people to the Su Mansion and the Duke's Mansion and asked them to surround the front and back doors. Bring out the Su family and Su Wan to me. With her order, the rebels directly broke through the doors of the two mansions. However, the expected shouting did not come as expected, and soon the rebels ran out without taking any hostages with them. Princess, the Duke's Mansion and the Su Mansion are two empty mansions, with no one inside. These rebels privately called Guyu, Princess. When Guyu heard this, her eyes widened and she was extremely angry. Su Wan, you're kidding me. It turned out that I had been confused by the performance she created during this period of time. Not even a servant? She asked immediately. The rebels nodded and said, yes, the two mansions were so clean that not even a servant could be seen. Go and search to see if there is any secret passage. We'll catch as many as we can. Guyu was really unwilling to give up. It is very important to them whether the Su family and the Duke's mansion can be under control. If there were no hostages, how could Jiang Yu, Su Jing, and others be restrained? Or maybe they had already anticipated that something would happen tonight, so they left Kyoto through the secret passage in advance. But as long as they had just left, she could always catch up with these old, weak, and sick people. Little did she know, or dare to think about it, that he had already left Kyoto more than a month ago and was far away in Zhongzhou. The four gates of the imperial city, in accordance with Su Chen's instructions, did not directly clash with the rebels. After resisting for a while, they began to retreat. It was as bright as day in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, but the sound of swords clashing could be clearly heard in the square outside. The Hall of Supreme Harmony Square, a square that can accommodate 50,000 people, is now packed with people. Su Chen and the commander of the Imperial Guards led their men to guard the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The rebels on the opposite side had a complete victory in terms of numbers. The rebel leader was not in a hurry either. He just blocked everyone's way. Your Majesty, it's bad. The rebels have broken in. There are more than 30,000 of them. They have surrounded the Hall of Supreme Harmony. A servant, so scared, crawled in to report the news. Their number was just over 10,000, and even though the Imperial Guards were extremely brave, they were outnumbered. Even if there were still 2,000 soldiers from the city defense camp who could attack from behind, it would be like an egg hitting a stone. Murongsheng smiled and drank a glass of wine. Inside the hall, all the ministers had begun to panic, and some had even started to tremble. Murong Huai was not panicked at all, but looked calmly at the princes below him. Why, you can't wait any longer. Father's body has just been placed in the imperial mausoleum, and you can't wait to force the emperor to abdicate? Since ancient times, the road to succession has always been bloody. The winner becomes the king, and the loser becomes the bandit. The competent one takes the throne, and it is the same for us. Murongsheng played with the wine glass in his hand. Murong Huai sneered and simply changed to a comfortable position leaning against the dragon chair. So, fifth brother, how do you want to play this game? Do you want to make the Hall of Supreme Harmony a river of blood? That's not the case. I am a clean person and don't like to see bloody scenes. If you hand over the jade seal and the military token, you can live. If you don't, no one will die in our palace. But your families are already in my hands. You should weigh it yourself. Do you want to defend Murong Huai to the death, or follow the current situation and preserve the overall situation? You, the pillars of the country, must have a balance in your heart. Now, all the officials' residences and their families in Kyoto have been arrested. The team sent by Gu Yu indeed found a tunnel in the Su mansion. However, the southeast gate has been replaced by Su Chen's men to guard it. Princess, Zhu Liang is dead. When Gu Yu heard the news, he looked at the rebels under his command in disbelief. Why did Zhu Liang die so quickly? She felt something was wrong. Was Zhu Liang's betrayal discovered long ago? Did they let them into the city on purpose? Thinking of this, Gu Yu hurried towards the imperial city. The journey was smooth, and we arrived at Xuanwu Gate smoothly. Most of the people in the Taiha Hall Square were our own people, but she already had a bad feeling in her heart. Just 5 miles away from Kyoto, Duke Jiang was already waiting here with 50,000 troops. He waited for 2 fireworks to be released from the direction of Kyoto as a signal, and then he would immediately lead his army into the imperial city to protect the emperor and encircle and suppress the rebels. It seems that Murongsheng has everything under control, but in fact, Murong Huai has everything under control. He was playing with 2 luminous pearls in his hands, and his fingers were extremely flexible, as if he was playing with Murongsheng. Your Majesty, Prince Jin's concubine is here, and she wants to enter the palace. The servant came in again to report the news. When Murongsheng heard that Gu Yu was going to enter the hall, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Didn't he say that she just needed to wait outside? Since concubine Gu is here, please come in. Murong Huai thought, it's good that she's here. Everyone is here. After a while, Gu Yu came in panting. She did not kowtow to the new emperor, but came directly to sit next to Murongsheng, then leaned over and whispered something in his ear. The more she spoke, the deeper Murongsheng's frown became. Huai exchanged glances with Jiang Yu, and they both smiled at the same time. It's easy to enter Kyoto, but difficult to leave. Sheng took a deep look at Huai at the top of the table. He seemed to have the same bad premonition. Huai, if you still don't abdicate, then I will have no choice but to kill those hostages. I will kill one every quarter of an hour. I know you have a backup plan, but you don't want your ministers to lose their families, right? Sheng knew that he had to speed up the progress. Otherwise, the longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. The ministers heard what Sheng said. They all panicked, and some were already begging. Your Majesty, please save my family. My grandson is only 6 years old. His Majesty. Some ministers with bad mentality were so frightened that they ran to the palace to plead for mercy, hoping that Huai would save their families. Huai made a gesture, and Jiang Yu got up and went to the inner hall. After a while, Jiang Yu brought out concubine Xu and concubine Zhuang. Them were actually the 2 children of the Princess of Chu and the King of Chu. One was only 2.5 years old, and the other was still in swaddling clothes. There were also King Qi's 2 legitimate sons and 1 legitimate daughter. The King of Chu stood up immediately, and the King of Qi could not help but panic. He deliberately did not bring the princess and 2 children with him when he came to Kyoto because he was afraid that they would become hostages. Why did they appear here at this moment? The Crown Prince of Chu had already started crying loudly, and the King of Chu's youngest daughter was also crying, which made the King of Chu feel as if his heart was being cut by a knife. Huai, what do you mean? Facing Qi's questioning, he just had a faint smile on his face. You have hostages and I have hostages too. When my father passed away, I saw that the Princess of Chu and the Prince of Chu did not come. I thought that this was really disrespectful to my father, so I sent someone to invite them over. 6th brother, 4th brother. You must think carefully. If you continue to stand by Sheng, perhaps you can get glory, but you will lose all your family members and descendants. Is it worth it? Sheng had just said this, and now it was his turn to speak. As soon as they arrived in Beijing, people from Fengyue Villa sneaked into Chu and brought the Princess of Chu, the Prince of Chu, and the little princess to Kyoto. The mountains there are high and the waters are long, and it is controlled by the people of Fengyue Villa, so no letters can be sent. Their troops have now come to Kyoto, so the backup defenses are naturally insufficient, and no news can be received. Princess Chu was crying silently while holding her child. Concubine Zhuang was also crying. Only concubine Xu was shouting like a shrew, Sheng, don't worry about me. I'm dead, so be it. Your great cause is the most important. When Jiang saw her going so crazy, he had someone hold her down and pinch her chin to prevent her from biting her tongue to commit suicide. For a dignified imperial concubine, being held down like this by 2 guards was a great shame and humiliation. Sheng's fingernails had already dug into the flesh. But the current situation is that not only his mother is a hostage, but also hostages from the families of King Qi and King Chu. I have known for a long time that you are going to take action. How many people are there, and what is your plan? King Jin, guess how I knew it? Huai looked at Sheng with a smile. Sheng didn't say anything. His brows and eyes were extremely gloomy. Xie and the Prince of Jin guess it? That's really boring. Why don't you let me tell you? Thanks to concubine Gu's suppression of the Princess of Jin in the past, the Princess of Jin held a grudge and found out a lot of useful information. She sent it all to Kyoto and told me. Now, outside the imperial city, the 50,000 troops of the Shishan camp have arrived at the gate of Kyoto. How can you, with just over 30,000 people, compete with me? Has been sent out from the city tower that Duke Zhang's troops are already at the gates of the city. By then, the rebels will have no way to retreat. It was impossible for them to kill these ministers, nor was it possible for them to kill all their families. So, even if he seized the throne, who would work for him? But the problem now is that he has no chance to seize the throne. Gu Yu gritted her teeth. No wonder Zhao Hui suddenly changed her personality half a year ago and was willing to serve her as a servant. It turned out that she did it to get information. Prince Yong was the first to express his opinion. He walked directly into the hall and knelt down. Your Majesty, I am loyal and have no intention of rebelling. He did not want to be involved in this unnecessary disaster. Second brother, you don't have to be afraid. Since you didn't participate, I will not offend you. Get up quickly. Seeing Prince Yong's statement, Prince Qi could no longer bear it and followed him out and knelt. Your Majesty, I only helped the King of Jin with some money. If your Majesty wants to punish me, then punish me, but don't bring disaster to my children and my family. Morong Huai was also aware of this. Over the past 3 years, Morong Sheng and Morong Qi had needed a large amount of financial support to raise elite troops. The cost of raising these 35,000 elite troops was extremely high. Unlike the imperial court, which had its own specialized agency to maintain an army, they had to forge all their own armor and weapons and hide them so as not to be discovered. However, the imperial court had a large amount of tax revenue and imperial merchants every year, so the treasury was full and they had no shortage of money. Their fiefdoms also need to pay a certain amount of money to the imperial palace every year. The Gu family alone is not enough to support it, so at this time, they asked King Qi for funding. He who knows the current situation is a hero. Fourth brother, it is a wise choice to turn back from the wrong path. I have never thought of taking your lives. Haven't you been living in peace in your fiefdom in the past few years? Sixth brother, I will give you another chance. Do you want the princess and the prince, or do you want to continue to stand by Morong Sheng's side? King Morong Qi of Chu is facing the most difficult situation at this moment. On one side are his brothers and allies, and on the other side are his wife, children, and mother. At this time, the Queen of Chu spoke up, crying to the King of Chu, Your Majesty, please stop. Our daughter has just come out of confinement. You promised me that you would take good care of the children as they grow up. Have you forgotten? Please stop being confused. Let's go back to Chu and live a good life, okay? Morong Qi's eyes turned red and he started crying, with a wavering look in his eyes. Now it seems that Morong Sheng and Gu Yu are isolated and helpless. Brother, I'm sorry. I can't just watch my family go to waste. Why don't you give up too? Don't let so many innocent people exist in the world. Their lives are lives, too. Morong Qi's meaning was very clear. If he surrendered, the matter would be resolved simply and fewer people would die. He can have a way out, right? Morong Qi walked to the center of the hall and knelt down directly, which meant he obeyed Morong Huai's wishes. Morong Huai, you are really calculating, but what if I don't surrender today? I have said that the winners are the kings and the losers are the bandits, and the capable ones take the throne. Even if I fail today, I will still try my luck. Maybe I can get a few people to take the blame with me. If I can't succeed, you won't have an easy life either. If you want the throne, I will make you deserted by everyone. He finished speaking, he picked up the porcelain cup and smashed it hard onto the ground. The sound of the porcelain pieces breaking was particularly harsh in the hall. When the rebels outside heard the noise, they rushed over without caring about anything. Instantly heard outside. Gui was dumbfounded. She gasped in panic, thinking that she couldn't get out today. She could only close her eyes in despair. The hall was filled with civil officials. Morong Sheng laughed loudly. Morong Huai, I want all those hostages to be buried with me. I wonder who is willing to defend your kingdom. After saying that, he threw a white ball, which hit the ground and immediately dispersed into clouds of smoke. Jiang Yu covered his mouth and nose immediately, but Morong Huai was a step late and inhaled some poisonous smoke. Morong Sheng then threw a few more in the hall. For a moment, the entire hall of supreme harmony fell into chaos, with coughing sounds one after another. He took the opportunity to grab Gu Yu's hand and wanted to escape from the hall of supreme harmony in the chaos. Jiang Yu took out an anti-poison pill from his arms and swallowed it. He held the sword and groped in the dark. Morong Huai, but they all fainted due to inhaling the poisonous smoke. A crossbow arrow flew straight towards Morong Huai at the top, accompanied by the sound of wind. Fortunately, Jiang Yu predicted it in advance and blocked the arrow. It turned out that Morong Sheng shot an arrow towards Morong Huai based on his feeling. If he was lucky, he could take his life, but if he was unlucky, he could at least injure him. After shooting the arrows, he pulled Gu Yu out through the side door, while the poisonous fog was still there. It was impossible for him not to leave a way out for himself. He clearly remembered the direction of the side door and easily found his way out of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. He knew that he couldn't leave today, but he didn't want Morong Hwai to have an easy time. So he took out the signal fireworks from his waist and fired them into the sky. A small ball of blue fireworks bloomed in the air, which was a signal for the rebels outside the imperial city to kill the hostages. He took Guyu with him and used his knowledge of the palace to successfully meet up with the rebel leader. In the Supreme Harmony Hall Square, Su Chun and the commander of the Imperial Guards are leading the team, swearing to defend the Supreme Harmony Hall to the death and not letting the rebels in. Pushed Guyu directly in front of the rebel leader. According to the previous agreement, take the concubine and leave Kyoto. They still have a way out, but Morong Sheng doesn't plan to leave. Guyu heard this and looked at him in disbelief. Let's go together. There's still time. Why don't you go? We are already defeated. I can't leave, and I don't want to leave. If I die, I want to die here with my people. But you're different. You still have to take care of our Chunner. Go. Don't look back. Go to the place I arranged for you, and spend the rest of your life. Morong Sheng had been planning for so long, but after this defeat, he would never be able to make a comeback. If he escaped, he would have to live a life of hiding for the rest of his life, so he might as well die. He still has a son, and his son still has hope. Only if he dies can he give the mother and son a glimmer of hope. Guyu finally couldn't hold back her tears, and the tension in her heart completely broke. Morong Sheng, are you stupid? Only if we survive can we have a future. I don't want my future to be without you. You must come with me. Guyu tried to pull his hand, but was hit on the neck by a knife and fainted completely. Take her away. Make sure to take her away safely. Morong Sheng finally kissed the corner of her lips with a loving look in his eyes. The rebel leader nodded, holding Guyu, and left quickly. Duke Zhang's troops had already arrived at Xuanwu Gate and charged straight in. Together with Su Chun and the commander of the Imperial Guards, they directly surrounded the rebels. These rebels are still fighting and show no intention of retreating. Inside the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the smoke gradually dissipated, and everyone inside fainted. Sumu appeared with a face scarf wrapped around his face and a porcelain bottle in his hand. He first fed an antidote pill to Morong Hwai, then to the young princess of Chu Palace and several children of the palace, and only then went to rescue the ministers. Fortunately, this poisonous smoke only has the effect of causing coma and does not have any life-threatening effects. However, the king of Chu's little daughter was too young. After inhaling so much smoke, the situation was not optimistic. Her little face was bruised and purple. Sumu rushed to save the little life as soon as possible. The princess of Chu was still unconscious, but she still held her child tightly. Sumu could not care about so much and could only pick up the silver needle to give the child acupuncture first. This little girl reminded him of his own sweet daughter, and his heart softened. The others can just faint for now, they won't die anyway. Jiang Yu also joined the battle, following Su Chun and the others to kill the enemy. He held on until the reinforcements arrived before he left to look for Morong Sheng. Morong Hwai said, "Save his life and don't let him die." As expected, Morong Sheng mixed in with the rebels and fought hard, and Guyu was able to escape successfully, but was just intercepted at Suzaka Gate. Jiang Yu walked towards him, and when the two met, they quickly started fighting. As if there was a tacit understanding, neither side chose to attack them, but let them fight among themselves. Inferior to Jiang Yu in martial arts, and his defeat is obvious. However, Jiang Yu always left some room for maneuver when he made his moves, but Morong Sheng's every move was a killing move, and he wanted to kill Jiang Yu. He hit Jiang Yu so fiercely that his arm was scratched uncontrollably, and the blood instantly darkened the color of his robe. He was a little angry and used all his strength. After dozens of moves, he found the right moment and wanted to capture him with his sword, but Morong Sheng suddenly curled his lips in a smile and ran straight into his sword. The sword went straight through his body, and he had no intention of living anymore. Jiang Yu's pupils suddenly shrank, and he quickly loosened his hand that was holding the hilt of the sword. Murongsheng fell straight into a pool of blood, and blood began to flow out of his mouth and nose. He is the prince, and Jiangyu is his subject. Even if he dies, he cannot die at Jiangyu's hands. However, Jiangyu was only panicked for a moment. He took out a reversing pill and stuffed it directly into Murongsheng's mouth. But he refused to swallow it, so he could only say, "Guyu's been captured by our people. If you don't want her to die with you, just swallow the medicine obediently." Originally stubborn, was obviously shocked after hearing this. Guyu was indeed intercepted by someone who had been arranged in advance. He did not lie. He wanted to die, but he could not bear to see Guyu die. He bet that Murongsheng's feelings for Guyu were sincere. After taking the Huihuan pill, the rate of blood loss slowed down. Su Mu had just rescued the little princess of the Chu Palace and was hurriedly asked to rescue Murongsheng. Along the way, Jiangyu gave him all the life-saving pills he had on him and carried him back to his side hall safely. With Su Mu around, Murongsheng's life should be saved. As she woke up, several palace maids carried her to Murongsheng. Su Mu was still trying to save him, but Murongsheng was too badly injured. A sword pierced through his body, only a hair's breadth away from his heart. Fortunately, he was given a lot of good medicine, so he didn't die on the spot. But his survival instinct was very weak, so Jiangyu directly asked someone to bring Guyu over. When Guyu saw Murongsheng lying on the bed dying, she immediately started screaming.
"What did you do to him?
"Why did you do this to him?" Su Mu frowned and looked at her. What did they do? Why didn't she ask what she had done? He ran into it hoping to die, but his desire to survive is weak at the moment. "I have done what I can. The rest depends on you. If you have anything to say, tell him quickly." As a doctor, Su Mu did his best. In the Hall of Supreme Harmony, Murong Huai and his men had not woken up yet, but the rebels outside had been wiped out, half of them killed, and half of their weapons confiscated. They also suffered heavy casualties on their side, but fortunately, the reinforcements arrived in time. After Guyu arrived, Su Mu and Jiangyu went out. There were heavy guards outside, so there was no need to worry about them running away. Guyu looked at Murongsheng, crying out of breath. She pulled his hand, let him put it close to her face, and rubbed it. "Brother Sheng, I'm Yuer. Please don't die, okay? Chun'er, and I don't want to lose you. In fact, I have a surprise that I plan to tell you after we're done, but now it seems that I have to tell you. Don't you always want a daughter to feel complete? I'm pregnant now, more than 2 months. Don't you want to wake up and see her?" Guyu said a lot of things in his ear, and 2 tears flowed from the corners of Murongsheng's eyes. Outside the house, Su Mu looked at the bloody smell that filled the palace and couldn't describe what the feeling was. "Brother, I leave this to you. I have to go look for Wanwan." Jiangyu saw that the situation here had been pacified, and he was concerned about the safety of his wife.
수문아딧.
After all, Murongsheng was no longer a powerful figure now, and Guyu was just a woman. With so many soldiers guarding outside, what was there to be afraid of? Afterwards, when Su Mu went in again, he found that Murongsheng no longer wanted to live as much as before, and he had a desire to survive. Yu had been holding his hand. Her eyes were dull, and tears were flowing silently. Outside the palace, all the hostages had been rescued, but several people still died, which was unavoidable. People from shunned Marquis Mansion also participated in the rebellion, and the entire family was controlled, but their legitimate daughter Zhong Lear disappeared. Su Wan was waiting here at Feng Ying's place. He didn't dare to sleep, and couldn't sleep either. He just kept listening to the noise outside. Jiang Yu said that if he was safe, he would come and pick her up immediately. Feng Ying stayed outside until Anan came over. "Princess, princess, are you asleep?" Hearing Anan's voice, Su Wan jumped up from the couch. She didn't even take off her clothes and just kept waiting. "I haven't slept yet. Where's Jiang Yu? How is he?" Su Wan ran out and asked Jiang Yu the first thing he did. "The rebels have been dealt with, and the prince is fine, but he can't leave the palace yet, so let me pick you up. You can meet him and put your mind at ease, and then I will send you back." Jiang Yu knew that she would not feel at ease until she saw him, but there were still many things in the palace waiting for his decision. Since Murong Huai and the others were still unconscious, He could not leave casually and could only ask Anan to pick her up. Anan could be trusted 100%, so Suwon got on the carriage and followed her to the Xuanwu Gate. This was not the main battlefield, so there was no bloody scene. The Hall of Supreme Harmony Square was a river of blood. Jiangyu was waiting at the door. It was just dawn, and seeing him standing there, Suwon ran towards him and hugged him. On his arm had just been bandaged, and it was bleeding again because of the hug, but Jiangyu didn't say a word. Suwon still smelled the blood on him. "Are you hurt?" "No, I just killed the enemy." Jiangyu denied it, not wanting to make her worry. "Where are my eldest brother, second brother, and third brother? Are they safe?" Suwon didn't forget her brothers just because she had a husband. "They are all safe. The eldest brother smoked narcotics and is still unconscious, but he is fine. The second brother is very busy and has to save people. The third brother can't leave either, but I saw him before and he is fine." Suchin suffered some minor skin injuries, but since he had thick skin, it was nothing. In this way, Suwon felt relieved. "I can't leave for the time being. Let Anan take you home first. Just wait for me at home." He touched her head, very doting. After Suwon confirmed that they were all fine, she returned home with peace of mind. The carriage arrived at the gate of the Duke's mansion, and Luyan waited for her at the door. After Anan sent her there, he had to go back to help. The gates of the two mansions were demolished by the rebels. When Suwon walked up the stairs, a figure suddenly jumped out from behind the stone lions on both sides. "Suwon, go to heck." A sharp female voice sounded, and Suwon didn't have time to react. I only heard Luyan shouting, "Princess, be careful." She personally stood in front of Suwon, and the knife scratched the back of her hand. She raised her foot and kicked the attacker to the ground. The man was holding a knife and was kicked down the stairs. He didn't hold the knife properly and stabbed himself in the abdomen. Luyan immediately drew his sword and walked down. He took out a fire starter from his waist and flicked it. A faint flame ignited. Suwon was startled, and his heart was pounding. Luyan looked down and saw the figure was a woman who was just twitching slightly. She turned her over with her feet and took a look at her with fire. "Oh my god, it's Zhonglir, but why is she here?" "Princess, it's Zhonglir." Suwon hasn't heard this name for a long time because ever since she schemed against Jiangyu and ruined her reputation, she has been a laughingstock in Kyoto. No one dares to marry her, and her status in the family has plummeted. Her appearance here now, to assassinate Suwon, really makes people feel cold. Fortunately, Luyan was there, otherwise I would have been in trouble. "She's dead." Suwonkai just walked over and the whole process took only a dozen seconds. She was gone? Later we found out that the knife in her hand stabbed herself in the abdomen when she rolled down the stairs. Suwon held his forehead with his hand, but still asked someone to cover her body with white cloth and send it to the Dali temple. Liu Yun's back of her hand was injured, but because all the maids in the mansion had gone to take refuge, Suwon had to bandage her hand personally. Inside the palace, when daybreak came, the square of the Hall of Supreme Harmony had been cleared, and countless corpses would be transported to the crematorium in the suburbs. Last night caused ordinary people to be afraid to go out. There were no pedestrians on the streets, and no shops were open. Murong Huai woke up the next morning and felt a splitting headache. He certainly didn't expect Murong Sheng's smoke trick last night, but fortunately he had already planned the game in advance, and everything was going according to his plan. When he heard that Murong Sheng almost died, he was deeply saddened. His father died. He told him that even if there were princes causing trouble in the future, he hoped Murong Huai would not kill them and spare their lives, because they were all brothers after all, and as long as one of them was spared, he could take care of the rest. If it weren't for this, Murong Huai wouldn't care about his life or death. Murong Sheng was finally rescued, but trials still awaited him. Many participants in this palace coup will not escape sanctions. The shunned Marquis's mansion was ransacked, leaving no one alive, and all those who rebelled against the Marquis were killed. The crime against Prince Qi was relatively minor, so Murong Huai allowed him to return to his fiefdom. The king of Chu surrendered in time, and most of those guarding the hostages were his men. The queen of Chu gave them a token in advance, so they were saved. Since he did not cause heavy casualties to the hostages, he was considered to have made a contribution. After offsetting his merits and demerits, he could return to his fiefdom, but the annual taxes paid by the fiefdom would have to double for the next 5 years. A fiefdom's income is not enough to cover its expenses. If the tax revenue has doubled for 5 consecutive years, he will be poor for at least a dozen years. After a dozen years, he will be old. Murong Huai also temporarily added a policy, inserting an institution in the fiefdoms of various vassal kings, named the resident envoy, to lead the army to be stationed in the fiefdom to prevent the kings from causing chaos again. As for Murong Sheng, the mastermind of this incident, the late emperor saved his life, and Murong Huai abolished his throne, but still gave him the Prince of Jin's palace to live in. All his martial arts skills were abolished, his legs were broken, and he and his concubine were never allowed to leave the palace. He would send soldiers to guard it. Murong Qin was kept in the palace from then on. He was allowed to visit the prince at the palace, but not for more than half an hour each time, and he was still respected as the crown prince. However, he will always be watched by people planted by Murong Huai. Although he has the title of crown prince, he will never be able to leave Kyoto and the palace in this life. Murong Huai still couldn't bear to be too harsh on the child. After Guyu gave birth to her second child, whether it was a son or a daughter, the child had to be brought to the palace to be raised. He was afraid that the couple would teach their child bad habits and cause him a lot of trouble in the future. He did not allow Murong Sheng to commit suicide. If he disobeyed the order, he would have to think that his child was still in the palace and would be like a hostage. Living is the greatest punishment for him, especially living in a place that is like a cage, which is worse than death. When the new emperor ascended the throne, he wanted to be benevolent and filial. He honored his biological mother as the Empress Dowager, the crown princess as the queen, and the 2 concubines as the virtuous concubine and the virtuous concubine respectively. His eldest son, Murong Jun, was named the crown prince. Concubine Shu was demoted to a commoner and sent to the cold palace, but she had already gone mad, and her mind was completely disturbed. Murong Huai arranged for Murong Sheng to return to the Prince of Jin's mansion, where he had people to serve him and no worries about food and clothing, but he just couldn't go out. His injuries healed. He was executed by breaking his legs, and he would have to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Anyway, he couldn't commit suicide. He had to live for his son and wife. Guyu was still a concubine. When the new emperor ascended the throne, she was just 3 months pregnant. Zhao Hui was brought over from Jin, and she took the initiative to ask to return to the palace to serve the prince. I don't know whether she was serving or pretending to serve, but her smile was eerie. Murong Huai warned her not to take advantage of Guyu's child, otherwise her family would not have a good ending. Murong Huai is also very cruel. He insists that others endure the pain of separation from their loved ones. Murong Sheng planned a rebellion. How many people died because of him? He must atone for his sins. Afterwards, Murong Huai carried out a series of reforms in the court. Su Jing became the prime minister at the age of 30, the youngest prime minister in the Jin dynasty. Murong Huai was ready to return the power of 100,000 troops to the mansion of Duke Jiang, but Duke Jiang refused. He felt that his leisurely old age life was good and didn't want to do anything else. Jiang resigned as he wished and never got involved in court affairs again. Fengyue Villa is still waiting for him to inherit. His grandfather is old, and he wants to take his wife to Fengyue Villa to spend the few remaining moments with him. The matter in Kyoto was settled. The Su family was also brought back to Kyoto. Su Jing is now the first-rank prime minister of the cabinet, and he has also requested that his wife Xin Qingli be conferred the title of Lady of Imperial Concubine. He should have moved to a bigger house, but no one wants to leave. The current Su mansion is very good, so there is no need to leave. So, they continued to live in the Su mansion. Qingyi hadn't seen his mother for more than 3 months, but he didn't feel strange. When he saw his mother and father, he danced with joy and opened his arms for a hug. The moment Su Wan saw him, he felt that everything he had experienced was worth it. Murong Sheng has become taciturn since he woke up. Having lost his martial arts, he feels like a useless person and becomes thinner day by day. He really didn't want to continue lingering on in this world, but every time he saw Guyu's comforting smile and saw his son from time to time, he persevered. Their lives are in their own hands. However, Murong Huai wanted to break his legs, which was undoubtedly a brutal trampling on his dignity. He said that this was to atone for the more than 10,000 people who died because of him, so he could not die and should live in pain. However, Murong Huai has been very kind and righteous. If Murong Sheng succeeds in taking power, what kind of punishment will greet him? There is no doubt that he will die, and even Jiangyu will die with him. The execution. Murong Sheng was held down and beaten mercilessly on his legs with sticks. Such great force was used, 10 times in total, but he endured it without making a sound. When it was over, he fainted from the pain. Guyu cried heartbreakingly. The servants held her back and wouldn't let her go. Finally, she fainted from crying and had a miscarriage. Zhao Hui watched the end of the two of them, laughing so hard that tears came out, and kept repeating to herself, "This is retribution." In the end, Su Mu went over personally to discipline the couple. Guyu opened her eyes and saw Su Mu, who was standing there looking at her. Tears rolled down her eyes again. Su Mu couldn't describe what emotion she felt inside. She just felt extremely sad. When she thought about her childhood now, it seemed that many things had faded. The seemingly innocent little girl in her memory was actually never innocent. Just as she said when she was a child, she would never marry an ordinary man in the future. When it comes to being content, she will never be as good as Su Wan, which is why she has come to this point today. Guyu cried very sadly. When Su Mu turned around to leave, she grabbed his sleeve and asked in a crying voice, "Brother, if I had not wanted to leave you, would I be as lucky as Su Wan now? Do you regret it?" Su Mu asked her while standing there, but never looked back. "I've regretted it a long time ago." Guyu didn't know when she started to regret it and couldn't remember clearly. It's no use regretting. Even if you hadn't chosen to go back to the Gu family, you still wouldn't be satisfied, because you're so proud that you always want the best of everything. One can't be too selfish. Wanting everything will only hurt you. Now you should have a good rest. You're already pregnant. Don't be too sad or happy. It's not good for the child. Leaving, Su Mu put a box of silver coins on the table. They were criminals, and their life in the palace must be difficult. Su's mother thought about it and prepared some silver coins for him to bring over. With some silver in hand, he could always take care of his food and drink. He put the box down and walked away. After Su Mu left, Guyu burst into tears again, but she still bowed to life and held the box of silver coins in her arms. She also has to take care of Murong Sheng, and she has a baby in her belly. After being warned by Murong Huai, Zhao Hui remained very honest and did not dare to do anything to Guyu. She just mocked them every day and spoke very harshly. This kind of mental attack would be unbearable for a long time. Murong Sheng wanted to kill her because he ended up like this because of this woman. Guyu gave birth to another daughter, but she was taken away the next day and sent to the palace. The child was very small, weighing only 4 pounds when he was born, and was very sick. Guyu did not cry or make a fuss because she knew that it would be better for him to live in the palace than to be with her. After Murong Sheng broke his leg, he had been in poor health, and he was always angry with Zhao Hui. 5 years later, he died of illness. On the day of his death, Zhao Hui also committed suicide by taking poison. Because she knew that Guyu was reluctant to die, as she had 2 children, and she would continue to live on. But if Murong Sheng died, Zhao Hui would have to follow him, and he would not be able to rest in peace even if he died. Guyu will spend the rest of her long life guarding this palace and having the opportunity to see her children once a month. The Su family will secretly take care of things for her, so her life is not too bad. After all, she wasn't so vicious as to be unforgivable in her life. This was also what Su Wan meant. Wasn't it because the original owner was isolated and helpless that she held such a great resentment? However, although she could see the children every month, they were not close to her. Instead, they were particularly unfamiliar with her because they had been instilled with the concept that treason was a serious crime that could not be forgiven since childhood. Children's values, outlook on life, and values must be corrected from an early age, and the queen gives them a lot of love and care. Especially for Guyu's daughter, who is taken away at birth, the queen is like her own mother. Morong Chun left his parents at a young age. As time went by, the vague and weak family affection had long since disappeared, and he only went to Prince Jin's mansion once a month as a routine. When Suwon was 23 years old, she gave birth to a daughter for Jiang Yu, as she wished. She named her Jiang Wanning, which was chosen by her great-grandfather a long time ago. Little Wan Ning was half a year old. The family of 3 went to Zhongzhou, and Duke Jiang went with them. They were away for more than 3 years. My grandfather lived a happy and contented life in the last 3 years of his life. His children accompanied him all day long, and when he passed away, he died in his sleep with a smile on his face. Jiang Yu is still in charge of Fengyue Villa, but Jiang Yunhe will help him. He accompanies his wife and children back to Kyoto to reunite with the Su family. As time goes by, their relationship remains sweet, and they only have each other in their eyes. Suwon felt that his life was already very complete, and he had nothing more to ask for. End of the article. Suwon and Jiang Yu returned to Kyoto with 7-year-old Jiang Qingyi and 3-year-old Jiang Wanning. Returned with them. In the past few years, when they were not in Kyoto, Shen Qingli would visit the duke's mansion nearby from time to time and ask people to clean the yard and trim the flowers and plants on a regular basis, so that when they come back one day, they can still live comfortably. When she heard that they were coming back, Su's mother was already looking forward to it because she missed her 2 grandchildren. In the past 2 years, 2 more little ones have been added to the family. My eldest sister-in-law became pregnant when she was at Fengyue Villa. After she came back, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Su Wenhua. The 3rd brother wanted to have a 2nd child and also wanted a daughter, but in the end it was a son, named Su Yanqing. The 5th brother Su Yi originally wanted to have another child, but he was afraid that it would be another bad boy, so he simply gave up. He and his 2nd brother shared the same idea that having 1 child was enough. Su Mu is satisfied because he has a daughter. Just 1 daughter is enough. So, up to now, there are only 4 daughters in the family, and the rest are sons. There are 6 sons in total, and Xiaowan Ning is the youngest girl. Her brothers and sisters like her very much. She is very beautiful and cute, like a little elf. Over the years, Morong Huai had another prince and a princess, both of whom were born from the queens. The princess was about the same age as Jiang Wanning and was named Morong Yao, while the 2nd prince was named Morong Kong. Morong Huai has already postponed the imperial concubine selection ceremony once, and now it has been 3 years, so he can't postpone it anymore. Many concubines were included in the harem, and it became increasingly lively. However, he still doted on the queen the most, and was very loyal to her. Because he was an emperor, many things had to adapt to the times. Without abolishing the traditions of the old era, he injected a lot of fresh blood into the dynasty, so today's Jin dynasty is becoming more and more prosperous under his leadership. The lives of ordinary people are getting better and better, and they are becoming richer and richer. On the day when Suwon's family of 5 came back, Su Yun personally cooked 2 tables of meals. There are too many people in the family now, and the tables are getting bigger and bigger, and the expenses in the house are getting higher and higher. Fortunately, each man is better at making money than the other. Over the years, Su Yi has established an unbreakable position in the art world and has become a legendary figure. His paintings are priceless, and a simple word on them can attract people to scramble for them. Chunglo's business is as good as ever. Su Mu has completely inherited the mantle of Dr. Sun and has become a new generation of miracle doctor. However, it is extremely difficult for him to go out for medical treatment. Now the child is still young, and he is thinking of waiting for 2 years. When the child is older, he will take little Yuanji to travel around the world just like his master took him to travel before. Little Yuanji has been very interested in medicine since he was young, and like his father, he is obsessed with studying medicine. The eldest, Su Huayu, is the eldest brother's son. Under the education of his eldest brother and sister-in-law, He has been well-read at a young age. He spends every day in the study, immersed in the ocean of knowledge. He is calm and introverted and will take the initiative to take the lead in treating his younger brothers and sisters. In short, the relationships in the family are very harmonious. The relationship between sisters-in-law is good, and the relationship between cousins is also particularly good. Everyone is about the same age, so they can play together. Almost as soon as they got off the carriage, they saw a row of people standing in front of the gate of Su Mansion, all waiting for Su Wan and the others. After Su Wan got off the carriage, he first gave his mother a big hug and then hugged his sisters-in-law one by one. "Wan Wan, you're finally back. We missed us so much." Jiaqing first hugged her arms. After so many years, she still acted like a little child. The third brother fulfilled his promise to Prince Yang and doted on his third sister-in-law. Jiangyu held his baby daughter in his arms and held his son behind him. Seeing the two little ones, all the little ones in the Su family surrounded them and looked at the brother and sister curiously. "We haven't seen each other for a few years. We were only a few years old when we separated, so we quickly forgot about it. I just heard my parents mention it from time to time, so I have some impression of it." Both of Su Wan's children inherited her dimples, as well as her and Jiangyu's beauty. Little Qingyi has red lips and white teeth, and at the age of 7, he can make girls of the same age want only to play with him. But he is rather arrogant, just like his father. When he gets annoyed, he will play a trick on others. Little Wan Ning was like a beautiful porcelain doll, a delicate and pretty little ball. Everyone who saw her wanted to hold her in his arms and play with her. She was in Fengyue Villa. She was everyone's favorite. Almost the entire sect treated her like a treasure. If she wasn't so young, the roof would have been blown off. Everyone had to praise her for being both civil and military. It's the same now when she's back home. Her brothers and sisters all surround her and poke her chubby little face, but she doesn't get angry. Even Su Huayu, who is usually the calmest and most introverted, couldn't help but ask Su Wan if he could hug his little sister Xiao Ning. When little Wan Ning saw that her brother wanted to hug her, she opened her little arms with a smile, revealing a few little milk teeth. She was so adorable. Su Huayu was stunned for a moment, then started laughing. Xiao Yuanji kissed her on the face. Su Wan didn't have to worry about anything anymore, as the two children were already surrounded and playing. She reminisced about the past with her sisters-in-law, as well as Su's mother and others. Dr. Sun and his wife have been old for the past 2 years and can't go anywhere, so they can only stay at home. Sumu takes the children back from time to stay with them for a while. After a while, their family of 3 will have to accompany the 2 old people back to Zhongzhou. Just like what they said before, fallen leaves return to their roots. The Su family had a lively reunion, eating together around the table. The adults sat at one table, and the children sat at another. There was a nanny watching them and picking up food for them. The children are very sensible and know how to take care of their younger brothers and sisters. Jiang Qingyi has been learning martial arts with his father over the years, and his lower body has become very stable at a young age. Su Yunzheng, who is 1 year younger than him, is also laying the foundation of martial arts. It should be said that all the boys in the family were ordered to learn martial arts from their uncle and not to neglect them, so that they could become both civil and military talents in the future. Time flies, and the brothers' faces have begun to show traces of aging. They are no longer full of vigor and vitality, and they no longer fight and bicker like they did when they were young. It was unknown when Su's mother and father's temples turned gray, and the wrinkles on their faces became more and more numerous. Su Wan hasn't changed much. Her appearance remains the same, but she has lost her girlishness and is left with only the gentleness and thoughtfulness of a normal mother. But she was still like a little girl in front of Jiangyu. She would throw tantrums at him, act like a rogue to him, and lose her temper with him when she was unhappy. Jiangyu endured it all without any complaints. Murong Huai heard that Jiangyu and his family had returned to the capital. He immediately summoned the 4 of them to the palace for a small gathering. A small banquet was also prepared to entertain them. There are only Murong Huai, the queen, the crown prince, the second prince, and the little princess, and they are their own 2 families. Murong Huai's harem was particularly harmonious because everyone had nothing to fight for. The emperor only liked the empress. He would sometimes go to see them but would not stay overnight. At most, he would have a meal and then leave. The queen mother usually treats them very gently. Regardless of their status, she will treat every concubine equally. If their allowance is deducted, they can go directly to her to complain, and she will uphold justice. Muronghui's reign can be said to be the most harmonious harem in history. Crown Prince Murongjun is 1 year younger than Jiang Qingyi. He is 6 years old this year. Although he doesn't look very young, he already has the qualities that a crown prince should possess. The prince is rather aloof and has a lot to learn every day. He looks very mature despite his young age. Su Jing also served as his tutor, and he had a lot of homework to learn every day. But the little prince is very handsome, having inherited his mother's genes. When he grows up, he will be one of the most handsome men. The second Prince Murongtsong is 4.5 years old this year. He is very quiet and likes to laugh. Princess Murongyao is only 2.5 years old and can't even speak clearly. Muronghui came in person to greet Jiang Yu and his family. I pay my respects to His Majesty the Emperor, His Majesty the Empress, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Your Majesty, the Empress, and the Crown Prince are greeted by your humble servant. The couple bowed respectfully. The prince also greeted Jiang Yu and his wife politely. Greetings to Prince Jiang and Princess Xuanla. Because Duke Jiang is still alive, Jiang Yu is still the crown prince, and Suwon is still respected as the princess. The queen mother was also there, teaching her daughter to call them brother and sister. Her Royal Highness the princess said in a baby voice, "Brother Qingyi, sister Xiaoning." The little girl's pronunciation is still not very accurate, but the more so, the cuter she is. When Suwon saw the little princess, her heart melted. She immediately handed her daughter to Jiang Yu and reached out to hug the little princess. The queen mother also had her eyes on little Wanting early in the morning and brought her over. The two of them took turns rubbing her, looking so happy. The prince and Qingyi stood aside sensibly and nodded politely. The emperor arranged for them to sit together so they could chat. This time, Muronghui also had something to ask Jiang Yu. He wanted to ask Jiang Yu to teach the crown prince and the second prince martial arts. General Su is very busy with his daily affairs and cannot leave, so Jiang Yu is the most suitable candidate. He also hoped that his two sons would be both civil and military, and that martial arts could help them protect themselves and strengthen their bodies. Jiang Yuzhua had already returned to Kyoto and was not going anywhere for the time being, so he generously agreed. But for one thing, it is impossible for him to enter the court. The more the queen mother looked at Jiang Wanning, the more she liked her. This little girl was really so adorable, so she asked Suwon if she could stay in the palace to play with Yao Yao for a few days so that the two girls could develop feelings for each other and become sworn sisters in the future. Now that the words had been spoken, Muronghui simply asked Qingyi to come to the palace for a few days and serve as the prince's study companion. Suwon looked at Jiang Yu's opinion, and if Jiang Yu thought it was okay, then it was okay. Jiang Yu agreed, without thinking. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to spend a few days alone with Wanwan without the children disturbing him. He couldn't miss it. So the couple left the palace without any burden, leaving their two children in the palace. As a result, two marriages that started from childhood were formed. After leaving the palace, Jiang Yu spent every day with Suwon. The two were inseparable and traveled around Kyoto, holding hands wherever they went. They are an old couple, but they act like a young couple in love. Muronghui and the queen wanted to bring the 5 children together, so they placed all 5 children in one palace and ordered the crown prince and Qingyi to take good care of their younger siblings. Jiang Wanning saw the crown prince for the first time. She especially wanted to get closer to him because the crown prince was as handsome as her brother. It's just that the prince doesn't seem to like talking. She took the initiative to open her hands to him. "Brother Prince, hug me." When Murongjun heard the childish voice and looked at the soft and tender little girl in front of him, he pursed his lips tightly, but still bent down and picked her up. Little Dumpling immediately started giggling with joy, and his 2 chubby little hands tightly hugged his neck. He had a nice smell of ambergris on him, which Xiaowenning particularly liked, and she blurted out, Brother Prince smells so good, I like it. Because Suwon always called her Zizai, she thought her nickname was Zizai. The 6-year-old prince blushed without any warning. He smelled the milky scent of the little girl, and she had 2 beautiful dimples when she smiled. When Princess Yao Yao saw her brother hugging sister Xiaoning, she also asked brother Qingyi to hug her. So there was the story that followed. No matter where the crown prince and the little prince Qingyi went, 2 bubbly little pink balls followed them, calling them brother all the time. This went on for more than 10 years. Jiang Wanning came of age at the age of 15 and had grown into a real beauty. The little girl was smart, beautiful, and quirky. The emperor arranged a marriage between her and Murong-jun. Murong-jun took the initiative to give up the throne of crown prince and gave it to his younger brother. He then became an idle prince, living a carefree life with his princess. Murong Huai's children are very talented, and either one of them can be the emperor. Jiang Wanning was also conferred the title of Princess Zhaoran by the emperor, and Suwon naturally became the wife of the duke's mansion. Jiang Qingyi and the princess had been childhood sweethearts. When they grew up, they fell in love with each other and got engaged. His father, Cheng Yi, has no ambition to serve in the court because he still has Fengyue Villa to inherit. It is really difficult for him to manage Fengyue Villa and be an official at the same time. Gradually, the younger generations in the family have started their own families. After Su's father and mother passed away one after another, the 5 brothers of the Su family each opened a mansion, bought their own house, and lived in Kyoto. Although they no longer live together, they still visit each other frequently on weekdays. The relationship between the brothers and sisters has not faded, but has become better and better. By the time Suwon's 2 children got married, Suwon and Zhangyu had already started to grow old. But while they were still strong, the couple began to revisit the old place. They returned to Xiangzhou, where they first met, and returned to Yang'aoao. Yang'aoao is no longer the Yang'aoao it used to be, but the largest apiary in Xiangzhou area. The old houses have long disappeared with the passage of time. Because the apiary has become prosperous, the people in the village have bought houses in the county, but they still keep the old house of the Su family and raise funds to hire someone to repair it every few years. It just so happened that the Su family had not returned to Xiangzhou for a long time. When Su's father and mother passed away, their bodies were transported back to Xiangzhou, returning to their roots. Since Suwon and Zhangyu were preparing to go back, the whole family decided to go back together to pay homage to their parents and ancestors. My uncle and aunt have also passed away one after another, so I have to go and pay my respects to them. I sent a letter to inform Yang Qingqing and my cousin's husband. My cousin's husband is now the governor of Xiangzhou. He ranked 2nd in the imperial examination the year Murong Huai ascended the throne, and then he rose through the ranks and has now been promoted to the position of governor. They temporarily lived in a place arranged by their cousin's husband. The whole family traveled in a grand manner, with more than a dozen horse-drawn carriages alone. This time, they also brought their daughters, sons-in-law, and daughters-in-law with them. The eldest brother's son has already married a lady from a prominent family. His daughter, Su Wenhua, is not yet of marriageable age, so she has not been betrothed yet. The second elder brother's daughter, Su Yuanji, was engaged to the eldest son of the Minister of Works. The third brother's 2 sons are still single. Their brains are as slow and wooden as their father's. I'm afraid it will take the girls' initiative in the future. The fourth brother's 2 children have also married, and they both married people from ordinary families. Because he was reluctant to marry his daughter off, he found a live-in son-in-law for his daughter. Moreover, with Su Zi's personality, most people can't stand her temper. The fifth brother's son inherited his father's mantle and has a high talent for painting. He follows in his father's footsteps and is truly a noble young man with a clear mind and a bright character. He doesn't have a girl he likes yet. This guy has too high standards, and ordinary girls are not at all in his eyes. As parents, they could finally understand why Su's parents were worried about their not getting married. They all returned to Yangyao to worship their ancestors. Everyone took a sickle and did it themselves. They cut all the weeds around the ancestral tombs and placed offerings on them. It was the children and their fathers who were doing it, while the ladies and girls just had to watch and supervise from the side. After going down the mountain and returning to the ancestral home, Soo-yeon rolled up his sleeves and suddenly wanted to cook another meal inside. As soon as they arrived here, everyone was filled with emotion. Soo-won seemed to suddenly see herself more than 20 years ago when she had just returned with her eldest brother. At that time, she was very much looking forward to the life she had just traveled through, but also a little nervous. Fortunately, everything went as expected, and she successfully changed her own destiny and the destiny of her family. Soo-yeon's proposal was unanimously approved by everyone. The old house is now being renovated regularly and still retains the appearance it had before they left. The children to see such a house. They gathered around their aunt with great interest and asked about their parents' childhood. Soo-won said that she didn't know before she was 13 years old, but from the age of 13 to now, she remembers every moment very clearly. She told them that she had exchanged identities with a concubine in Prince Jin's mansion, and later explained how they each returned to their respective places. She talked about her own story of making a fortune and what their father looked like when he was young. They were all surprised to hear that their father was so poor when he was a child that he couldn't afford food or go to school and could only eat potato and vegetable cakes every day. Because they were born with a silver spoon in their mouths and have never experienced the sufferings of the world. Soo-won told them that the good life they had now was accumulated by the hard work of their parents. Whether it was glory or fame, he hoped that they would keep their original intentions and not be tainted by worldly thoughts. The children looked at the big bunk bed where their parents slept when they were young, with 5 people squeezed together, fighting for the quilt in winter and sweating profusely in summer. Anyway, there are so many things to talk about that I can't finish talking about them in an entire afternoon. Until the brothers had prepared a meal together. They set up several tables in the yard, and each person had a small stool, and they ate with relish. Maybe the dishes were not as exquisite as the ones they usually eat, and there was not much meat, but it played a nostalgic role for their generation, and the younger generations also experienced a different life. In the evening, Soo-won and Jong-yu came to the land temple hand in hand. The land temple has not been demolished yet, and has even been renovated. It is no longer a dilapidated wall, but has a courtyard wall and many stone bricks. It is said that people from the flower farm often come here to worship. Facing the setting sun, the air was filled with a strong fragrance of flowers. Jong-yu suddenly mentioned something that Soo-won didn't know. He said, "Do you remember the Wang family in Chingha County? Young Master Wang said he wanted you to be his concubine. After his people were driven away by us, didn't he suddenly go crazy? In fact, he didn't go crazy because of a nightmare. It was because that night, my 3rd, 4th, and 5th brothers and I tied him up and brought him here, and beat him up severely. That trauma left him insane." If he didn't say anything, Soo-won would have no idea what was going on. She started crying while laughing, and Jong-yu gently wiped away the tears from her face. They left the land temple, a carriage stopped at the entrance, and a couple about their age got out.
Soo-won was surprised.
Why were there still people coming to worship at this time? The couple walked towards her, supporting each other. The woman looked very familiar, with a deep smile on her face. "Soo-won, don't you remember us? I am Jiang Sheng, and she is Jiao Xing." The middle-aged man spoke first. After hearing this, Soo-won immediately remembered, and he and Jong-yu looked at each other and smiled. It turned out that Jiang Sheng and his wife heard that they had returned and were afraid that they would miss them, so they left again, so they came to see her specially. Couple kowtowed to Soo-won and Jong-yu, thanking them for changing their fate. Afterwards, the couple did not follow the main group back to Kyoto, but instead traveled from Xiangzhou as the starting point. Many years later, Soo-won and Jong-yu were so old that they could not walk, their hair had turned completely white, their teeth had fallen out, and they even had great-grandchildren. The old couple are surrounded by great-grandchildren running around, and the children's laughter is constant, representing youth and vitality. The two of them lay on the lounge chairs to bask in the sun. Jiang Wanning was already middle-aged, so she came over with a blanket to cover her parents, fearing that they would catch a cold. The mother fell asleep with a smile on her face. She leaned in her father's arms and never opened her eyes again. That night, the father also went there, and the children knelt together and cried. According to his father's will, Jiang Qingyi buried them both in Yanyao, Xiangzhou, next to the Land Temple, and placed their token of love in the coffin. The abbot of Wanfuji Temple said that if they did this, they would have another life. However, their lives were already complete, and even if the abbot hadn't said so, they would have been buried in the same place. Ancient fan completed. Since she was 16, Suwon has been having a dream. In the dream, she wears classical clothes, combs her hair in classical style, and everything around her is antique. There was a man in the dream who seemed to be her husband, because the content of the dream was different every day, just like writing a novel. The two of them lived a shameless life every day. The alarm clock on the bedside table rang at the appointed time. Today, I made an appointment with my best friend to check in at a cemetery museum that was excavated 2 years ago. She got up, washed, and looked at herself in the mirror. She thought about her dream last night, and her whole face turned pink. This ancient handsome man is too weird. He occupies my dreams every day, but he is really handsome. And he also does those embarrassing things with me.
She thought she must be crazy about men.
Suwon is 18 years old this year, a young girl who is about to enter university life. It is said that 2 years ago, archaeologists discovered a 1,000-year-old tomb, which was a couple's tomb. The burial objects inside were particularly rich, which was of great help to the archaeological work. It took 2 years to build a museum to display the burial objects inside. Suwon's best friend Qianqian is a history enthusiast, so she invited her to check in at the museum. Suwon's eldest brother happened to be at home, so he drove her and Qianqian to the museum. That's right, Suwon has an older brother who is the general manager of his own company. Suwon is a rich girl. Her family has some money, her parents are loving, her family is harmonious, and she has a brainless brother who is obsessed with her sister. It was summer vacation, and the museum was very crowded. After buying tickets and entering, the two began to walk around inside. You are not allowed to take photos inside, but everyone is very polite and no one is making loud noises. The artifacts from thousands of years ago are really exquisite, and the craftsmanship at that time was really good, especially the kingfisher feather inlay and bead inlay techniques. Inside the glass cabinet, a hairpin is placed there alone. This is the kingfisher feather craft. The introduction above says that this hairpin is called Fengqiuwang. There is also a guzheng next to it, which is the famous Fengqiuwang in history. Because this tomb is a couple's tomb, most of the things inside are things used by the tomb owner during his lifetime. Archaeologists speculate that the lady in the tomb was a princess of the rank of a princess, as there was a set of court dress for women and a crown with kingfisher feather decoration inside. After being unearthed, it was restored and is still well preserved. It is now placed in a display cabinet. When Suwon saw this court dress for the first time, she was stunned, because this court dress was exactly the same as the one she wore in her dream. Even the details were exactly the same. She stood there in a daze, her hands clinging to the glass, her eyes filled with heat. Seeing her like this, Qianqian was a little worried. Wanwan, what's wrong with you? Suwon came back to his senses, shook his head, and found that his eyes were wet. No, I was just shocked. Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, this is the craftsmanship from the early Jin dynasty, and it is already so outstanding. I will take you to see an even more amazing one. I even suspect that there are time travelers from that dynasty. She pulled Suwon to another display case, inside which was a gold ring and a jade pendant made of mutton fat jade. The description on it said that these seemed to be tokens of love between the tomb owners. Seeing this, Suwon's heart skipped a beat again, because these two things had also appeared in her dreams. Her heart began to beat violently, as if she was suffocating. Look, Wanwan, it turns out that as early as the Jin dynasty, their gold jewelry craftsmanship was so advanced. Does this style look like the popular styles in our gold shops now? Qianqian pointed at the men's gold ring and spoke excitedly. Suwon was feeling flustered. She felt that the moment was a little unreal. The things in her dream had come into reality. It was terrifying no matter how she thought about it. However, she still nodded and responded to Qianqian. At this time, a boy wearing a black windbreaker, carrying a backpack, and wearing a mask walked over. He was about 1.8 meters tall. Just looking at his figure and his beautiful peach blossom eyes, it is easy to imagine how good-looking his face must be under the mask. As expected, Qianqian pulled her clothes again, all excited. Wan, so handsome. Suwon looked up and saw the boy walking towards them step by step. He also stopped at their glass exhibition area, staring fixedly at the things in the display case. His brows were slightly wrinkled under his hair, as if he was thinking. It was because of these eyes that Suwon stared at someone so directly for the first time. The boy seemed to feel her gaze, and when he looked up and saw her face, he was completely stunned, with a strange light in his eyes. Although Qianqian likes to look at handsome guys, she thinks that if a man is handsome, he won't wear a mask, and maybe all you can see is a pair of eyes. She took Suwon to visit other places. Suwon looked back as she walked, and the boy's eyes followed her. There was no doubt that many things in the museum had appeared in her dreams, which made her feel a little scared. They were about to leave. Qianqian went to the bathroom, and Suwon was waiting alone at the entrance of the museum, still thinking about everything that had just happened. Today she wore a white dress, her long hair was slightly curled to her waist, and when she smiled, she had a pair of dimples. Her pretty face was like white moonlight, and she attracted a lot of attention wherever she went. A shadow fell beside me, and a pleasant male voice sounded. "Classmate, can you add me a contact number?" Suwon looked up suddenly, and found that the boy in the black windbreaker was standing next to her. He took off his mask, revealing a handsome face, which coincided with the face in her dream. His face, which made Suwon's heart beat uncontrollably. She somehow clicked on the QR code and added him on WeChat, whose nickname was Yu, a combination of English letters. On the way back, he took the initiative to greet me with a simple sentence. "Hello, I'm Yu. Nice to meet you." Suwon also replied with the same words. He opened his circle of friends and saw only a few updates. There were no texts, only photos, and a simple emoticon. They were basically all related to basketball with a few months in between. After the greeting, there was no further news. The name Yu and his face that matched the one in the dream lingered in Suwon's mind. She wanted to ask him directly several times if he often dreamed about her like she did, but when she thought about it carefully, it seemed like she was actively striking up a conversation. The conflicted mood continued until the start of college, and Suwon was admitted to a key university. College, she definitely couldn't escape military training. Because of her extremely high looks, she was photographed on the first day of registration. She quickly became popular on the forum and was given the title of the sweetest girl in the world. It was also during military training that she met the boy from the museum again. He was also a freshman, which shocked Suwon in particular. Yu also noticed her. They were not the same instructor, but Yu's high appearance also made him stand out in the military training field. It has become a focus of everyone's attention. Stand at attention and run under the scorching sun, and her sweat soaked her hair and clothes. But because she was good-looking, she received a lot of approaching messages from boys, all of whom wanted to add her on WeChat. However, she politely rejected them all and only added a few male classmates from the same department using her secondary account. Yu also received a lot of approach from girls. It was really lively around him, with waves of girls coming to him to ask for his contact information. However, Yu was rather aloof and rejected them all. There are many beautiful girls among the freshmen, and the instructors will organize everyone together. Arrange a social gathering so that students with talents can come up and perform. A girl named Zhongli came on stage and performed a passionate dance. Her pretty face and perfect figure attracted many male college students. Her video was posted on the forum and became popular, instantly overshadowing Suwon. Suwon was sitting cross-legged there eating watermelon. Yu walked over to her and sat down next to her without her knowing and handed her an ice cream. What a coincidence. You're also a freshman at a university. I am from the finance department, and you? Jiangyu's voice was very pleasant, and his pair of peach blossom eyes were sparkling with smiles. Suwon's heart was pounding. Her recent dreams were full of scenes that were not suitable for children. This face made her blush and her heart beat fast. She took the ice cream and said thank you. I'm from the Department of Literature. The idols and dudes among the freshmen sat together and started to communicate with each other. Especially Jiangyu, who rejected countless girls' approaches, actually took the initiative to find the sweet girl and bought her ice cream. This made many rejected girls think she was a green tea. In short, Suwon got a perfect wave of contempt. After that, the two chatted about everything and became familiar with each other. Zhongli, a girl who had just finished dancing, sat next to Jiangyu and took the initiative to talk to Suwon. She was smiling brightly and breathing slightly. "Hi, classmate, can we be friends?" She took out the QR code and handed it to the two people, meaning that she wanted to add both of them. Suwon also added using his secondary account, but Jiangyu did not take any action. "Sorry, I didn't bring my phone." The refusal was obvious, which made Zhongli feel a little embarrassed. "It doesn't matter. There will be a chance next time. Anyway, the military training is not over yet." In the evening, Jiangyu took the initiative to send her a message. Although it was just a simple goodnight, for some reason, Suwon felt a little excited. He took the initiative to add my contact information, but took the initiative to reject others. It is difficult for most girls not to think too much about this. Afterwards, no one knew whether Zhongli added Jiangyu on WeChat, but she became active among the freshmen, gained a great reputation, and became a goddess-like figure. However, the low-key Suwon's limelight gradually faded. But soon she became angry again. Unfortunately, she got her period during the military training. She fainted while running, which scared the instructor. In front of everyone, Jiangyu carried her to the infirmary. Under the scorching sun, his sweat dripped on the back of her hand. Su was confused and could only feel that someone was holding him and running all the way. Sweat wet the hair on his forehead, and a pleasant smell of woody pine kept penetrating into his senses. After Suwon woke up, she realized that it was Jiangyu who sent her to the infirmary, and he had been with her while she was getting in for drip. When she opened her eyes, she saw his warm smile. At that moment, Suwon was extremely moved. But because of this episode, their story spread among the freshmen who were undergoing military training. There are many people who support the couple and think that the two are a perfect match. There are also many who say that Suwon is scheming and pretended to faint on purpose to get the male god's attention. There are also many who say that Jiangyu had planned it all along. In short, there are all kinds of versions. But because of this, the fate of the two people is entangled again. These two people in this life begins in the museum and ends with military training. In order to express his gratitude, Suwon invited Jiangyu to dinner, and they had a great conversation during the meal. After getting to know each other better, I found out that the two of them came from similar families and both of them owned a company. The reason why Jiangyu studied finance was to prepare for inheriting the family company in the future. But Suwon is different. She has a brother, so she just needs to be a parasite and does not need to worry about anything. She can do whatever she likes in the future. After that, the two would often chat on WeChat, say goodnight to each other, and make appointments to go to the library to study and read together. They would say hello when they met on the road. And every time they went to the library, Jiangyu would thoughtfully bring her a cup of milk tea or fruit tea, which would be iced when it was hot and warm when it was cold. When she was with him, she always felt that time passed very quickly, and she didn't feel awkward. It might be because they spent more time together in dreams, but every time she thought of those scenes, she couldn't help blushing. But there were some things that Suwon never had the courage to ask. She didn't know how to start, and she was also afraid that saying them would scare people away. They were really too outrageous. In fact, Jiangyu had the same worries as her, because he had been having a recurring dream since he was 16. In the dream, there was a girl who seemed to be his wife. She was very beautiful, had a pair of dimples, and had a sweet smile. They always did unspeakable things together. God knows how much such a smile made him sink. He felt that his adolescent enlightenment began in a dream. At first, Jiangyu didn't take it seriously as he dreamed of her for several nights in a row. But after that, he dreamed of her almost every night, which made him feel incredible. He even went to see a psychologist, but even the psychologist couldn't tell him why. It would be fine if he always dreamed about her, but he dreamed about the same person, someone he had never met in real life. This was very strange. His dream was set in ancient times, and everyone in it was dressed in ancient costumes, including himself. This dream actually did not cause him too much trouble. As time went on, he actually felt himself immersed in it and even looked forward to the dream every night. He thought he might be crazy, actually falling in love with the girl in his dream. Her every frown and smile was so clear, even though the dream was silent, he still felt it was wonderful. Until that time in the museum, many puzzles followed. Everything in the museum had appeared in his dreams. Most importantly, he actually met a girl who looked exactly like the girl in his dream. He was confused at the time and was briefly entangled. Everything in the museum made him feel horrified when he thought about it carefully, and he had a feeling of past and present life. Finally, he plucked up the courage to add the girl on WeChat, but after just saying hello, there was no further contact. He didn't know how to open his mouth to express his doubts. He was afraid that people would think he was a pervert. So, until he started college, he still hadn't figured out how to start the conversation. But to be honest, the girl in his dream, both in appearance and personality, is his ideal type. Even if he didn't have the dream, he might still be attracted to such a girl. Until he was surprised to find that the girl was actually in the same university as him and was also a freshman. He thought that his chance had come, and he decided to take the initiative to approach her, understand her, and get to know her. After getting familiar with her, he would ask his questions. He took the initiative to strike up a conversation with her and gradually became familiar with her, but he inexplicably found that when he was with her, he always had an irresistible heartbeat. She fainted while running. Her brain barely even reacted before she ran up. As he got along with her more and more, Jongyu discovered that Suwon was a very polite and talented girl. She was not delicate or artificial, but had good manners and taste. The two of them could always chat together and had similar tastes in food. Some feelings are born naturally. As the two met more and more often, his liking for her turned into a passionate love. No matter what she does, I will be unconsciously attracted to her. When I have free time, I will think about what she is doing. If she doesn't reply to my message in time, I will start to have wild thoughts. Does she think she is annoying? She talks too much? After entering university, Jongyu joined the basketball club and Suwon joined the painting club. She would often go to watch him play basketball and prepare a bottle of ice water. There were many girls who gave him mineral water, but Jongyu would only ask for water from her. These small details made Suwon's heart moved. Suwon would often invite him to be her model, and he would sit there quietly for the entire afternoon until she finished her painting. A semester passed like this. Jongyu became the handsome guy in the finance department, and Suwon became the pretty girl in the literature department. In everyone's eyes, the handsome guy and the pretty girl were a perfect match. However, Jongyu has always had an enthusiastic pursuer, Zhongli, who danced during military training. After being rejected, she asked for the contact information several times but failed. Instead, she became more and more courageous. She always went to the finance department to bring Jongyu breakfast and coffee and would block him on his way home from get out of class and ask him to go to the library together. However, the food and drinks she brought would be given away by Jongyu to others, and he never accepted any of her invitations. The new semester started. She made a very bold confession to Jongyu. She was downstairs of his dormitory, holding a rose, and in front of everyone, she blocked Jongyu and confessed to him in public. Suwon happened to be taking a walk with Yuhao that day. When she was waiting for him downstairs, she witnessed the scene. God knows how sad she felt at that time, and she was a little angry. Many people urged them to be together, but Jongyu would not be morally blackmailed. He directly and sternly rejected Zhongli and asked her not to bother him again in the future. Zhongli was rejected in public. She was so embarrassed that she ran away crying. There are many girls who like Jongyu, but she is the only one who is as persistent as him. It was also on that night that the two of them expressed their doubts at the same time. Jongyu, I often dream about you. Suwon, I often dream about you. Almost at the same time. They were both stunned and stopped, staring at each other for 2 minutes. He looked down at her and she looked up at him, blinking her big, Caroline eyes. The evening breeze by the river is gentle and a little cold when it blows on my body. But their hearts were beating fast. After nearly a year of getting along, they had already fallen deeply in love with each other because the other party's family background and personality were just right for each other. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before they were together. That night, both of them felt that the time was ripe, so they told this outrageous thing. I just didn't expect that the other person had the same experience as me. They both started dreaming about each other frequently when they were 16 years old. They also appeared in the same museum, recognized the exhibits in the museum, and recognized each other at the first moment. The two talked about it and roughly understood when the other started, but they did not review the content of the dream in detail. First, I'm sorry, and second, I'm still sorry. They talked everything out. The two became more relaxed. Jongyu began to frequently ask her out to play, driving her to various gourmet restaurants, going to amusement parks, video game arcades, watching movies, going to the beach, watching the sunset together, and Jongyu also introduced her to his friends. They were just like an ordinary couple, except that neither of them took the initiative to confess their feelings to the other, so they kept their emotions under control, never holding hands or hugging each other. It always starts from emotion and ends with etiquette. The dream never stopped, and it still played on a loop every night, tormenting the two people who were emotionally involved and keeping them awake at night, feeling itchy and anxious. As a girl, Suwon certainly would not take the initiative to confess her feelings. She had been waiting for Jongyu to confess his feelings to her. Jongyu was also planning a suitable time to confess his feelings. Jongyu in this life has a similar personality to Jongyu in the previous life and is a love-brained person. The relationship between the two can be described as smooth, from meeting to getting to know each other, to a process of mutual admiration. It was just like the previous life, a thrilling first encounter. He fell in love with her at first sight. She fell in love with him over time and gradually fell for his attentiveness and affection as they got along. Jongyu confessed his love to her on her 20th birthday. Both the timing and the time were perfect. He arranged a romantic and high-profile confession scene, and the two received many people's blessings. But at the same time, Suwon and Jongyu's relationship also attracted the envy of many of Jongyu's little fans. Some people slandered Suwon on the school forum, saying that she had an unclean private life, was being kept by someone outside, and was cheating on her. There were also photos of her getting into a luxury car with a strange man and behaving intimately. The most important thing was that the man gave her a stack of money in public, which directly confirmed the rumors that she was two-timing and had an unclean private life. Suwon was convinced. Did she need other people's consent to ask her brother for money? Illegal for her brother to pick her up from school? Is it too much for siblings to link their arms? Because the brother looks like his father, and she looks like her mother, they don't look like siblings from the outside, but people who are familiar with their family can tell at a glance that they are biological children, right? Jongyu is like a basketball star in school, and there are always girls screaming for him in every game. Even scouts who came to discover him and wanted to invite him into the entertainment industry, but he said directly during the interview that he had to go back and inherit his family company. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would not have enough money to support his girlfriend. At this time, someone suddenly tagged him to go to the forum to read a post about the beauty in the literature department who was two-timing. Reading it, Jongyu directly posted a response. "Excuse me, let me introduce you. The handsome and wealthy man in the photo is my future brother-in-law. Also, I will hold the poster accountable for the post that defamed my girlfriend's reputation. I will take legal action against the poster and those who posted vulgar remarks that hurt my girlfriend. In the internet age, please be responsible for what you say. The internet is not a lawless place." As soon as this post came out, it was immediately pushed to the top by the internet army he hired. The poster deleted the post almost immediately, but did not apologize, probably because he felt guilty. However, Jongyu had already collected evidence in advance and obtained the other party's IP and identity information, and had contacted a lawyer to send a lawyer's letter. He did collect evidence of the lengthiest and most controversial comments in the post and sent a lawyer's letter along with them. It was later discovered that the poster of this post was actually Jiang Yu's former ardent pursuer Zhong Li. After Zhong Li lost the case, Jiang Yu did not ask her to pay compensation, but instead asked her and several online abusers to apologize to Su Wan in person. This matter caused a lot of uproar and has even reached the ears of Su's parents and Su's brother. Understanding the whole story, I found out that my precious daughter was in love. And the target is the prince of Jiang Group. The Jiang Group and the Su Group have assets of over 10 billion yuan. The two groups are well matched and have had business dealings before. Except for the elder brother of the Su family who is unhappy about his sister having a boyfriend, the parents of the Su family were very satisfied with Jiang Yu in all aspects, so they did not stop him. Of course, the brother did not stop him. He was just upset with Jiang Yu. After all, his precious sister was abducted by him. However, Jiang Yu's actions on the forum were truly cool. No one could compare to Jiang Yu in protecting his wife. Ever since the two of them got together, Jiang Yu has turned into a clingy little puppy, and his wolf dog attributes also return from time to time for a limited time. I don't know why, but after they got together, they rarely quarreled. At most, they would just have some awkwardness, because each other was surrounded by suitors. Jiang Yu was a jealous maniac. Every time he saw someone asking Su Wan for her WeChat, he would feel awkward for a long time. It was not until Su Wan took out her small account and showed it to him that he realized there were many unread greeting messages on it, which she had never replied to. Only then did she become happy. They were juniors. They went to study abroad in Country M together and stayed there for 3 years. After coming back, Jiang Yu went straight into his own company, while Su Wan became a journalist, doing interviews everywhere, every day. Shine in their respective fields. At the same time, Jiang Yu also took Su Wan to formally meet his parents. Jiang Yu also has a very happy family in this life. His parents are very loving, and he has grown up surrounded by love. Jiang's parents particularly like Su Wan and are satisfied with her in every way. The gift they gave her was a small villa and a luxury car. In fact, Su Wan has all these things, but this is a unique way of getting along among rich people. Su Wan even became good friends with her future mother-in-law. They go shopping together, do beauty treatments together, drink tea together, and have manicures together. If Jiang Yu in his previous life had his mother by his side since childhood, he would have been able to get along very well with Su Wan, right? The two held a grand wedding when they were 26 years old. At that time, he was the president of a listed company, and she was a well-known news anchor. Jiang Yu proposed to Su Wan. After 6 years together, their relationship has become stronger and stronger. They can't live without each other. They are tolerant and considerate of each other, communicate in time, and avoid having wild thoughts. This kind of marriage blessed by both parents is happy in itself. Su Wan put on the wedding dress she had chosen herself and was carried out of the house by her brother. The two held an outdoor wedding. She held her father's hand and slowly walked towards the man at the other end of the red carpet. They put wedding rings on each other's feet and solemnly swore that no matter they were rich or poor, healthy or sick, they would be together forever and would never give up on each other and would always respect, love, and tolerate each other. He lifted her veil and kissed her. In the sunlight, the veil wrapped them both, creating a romantic and mysterious beauty, accompanied by the blessings and applause of our loved ones. A year later, outside the delivery room, the two families were waiting anxiously. Su Wan was giving birth inside, and her cries of pain could be heard from inside, making the people outside anxious and scared as well. Jiang Yu was waiting outside the delivery room holding a bouquet of roses. He hoped that as soon as his wife came out, she would see him waiting for her with flowers in his hands. Romance lasts till death, because my wife is a very romantic person. Su Wan gave birth to a son for him, named Jiang Qingyi. When she was 30 years old, she gave birth to a daughter for him, named Jiang Wanning. In this life, the two siblings are only 3 years apart in age, but their names are still the same. The dream from the previous life no longer appeared after the two people confirmed their relationship, as if they had completed their mission. After the hero and heroine fell in love successfully, they completed the mission successfully. Contemporary version completed. The book officially ends here. It is not well written, so please just make do with it. This is the author's first book with 1,000,000 words, and it can be regarded as an explanation. I hope everyone can live a happy life with the person they love and get what they want. Orange also wishes all the babies who have accompanied me throughout this article all the way, may all their wishes come true, everything goes well, and they will be happy. I love you.